Yep, we're live, I guess. We're live.
Oh man, they missed my good WebMD jokes. Those WebMD jokes are the best.
That was pretty good. You know, every once in a while you get a good one, and you guys missed it. So it is true though.
You. Every now and then you go from a grandpa joke to an uncle joke, and you're like, all right. You're like, oh. And they missed my good WebMD jokes. Those WebMD jokes are the best. Wow, what is going on over there?
There we go. Every once in a while you get a good one, and you guys missed it.
I'm still here in this video.
Why are you still hearing it?
You. Every now and then you go from a grandpa joke to an uncle joke. You're like, all right. Yay, Daniel. Run that stream.
I have for some reason, there's 5 windows open. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. I should probably go to the chat room, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I left it open for that reason, but I didn't turn down the, hey guys. Okay,
hey.
Our windows. Hey there.
We do this for a living.
This is literally why I need somebody to do this for me. I don't. I can't even do it right when somebody else is. Am I live? Am I live? I'm live. Okay, here we go. Hey guys.
Oh my god. They're probably watching an ad.
Saturday morning. No, we'll get a couple people here.
I keep forgetting it's Saturday morning. That's crazy.
Yeah, this is like Saturday morning cartoons. And welcome. Yeah, I don't, I've been trying to chat more with different people, and we haven't seen this guy in a long time. So, Seth Miranda.
Why, hello everyone, and happy you're probably on my Twitch channel and my other streams. We share the same freaking audience, man. Can I curse on this channel?
Go for it.
Yay! Fuck.
Sexual.
No,
I think swearing is okay, but no half-naked pictures of Sharina apparently.
Yeah, that was interesting, huh?
Yeah. Then you look at certain, and I'm not going to call out photographers because you all know who they are, that have these super naked, shoots on their channel. They get lots of views. I have a classy picture of somebody that's not even half naked, and I get pulled. So
yeah, I love how they're like, how to make the most amazing ultimate headshot lighting, and it's a girl in a leotard, and you're like,
those are the best.
What's your ploy here, buddy?
And I love the ones too where it's like, and I almost feel like they do it on purpose. It's intentionally low quality. They got this webcam in the corner, and they're like, I'm here in my bedroom doing boudoir.
No way. Is that a thing?
Yeah, do a little searching.
Do a little searching.
I'll send you some links because I make it a point not to call out other photographers, but you know who I'm talking about.
Do you remember when boudoir was called pinup when we were kids? We were like, we shoot pinup or whatever. Well, they shoot. I never got into that.
Here's the thing about boudoir as a thing, right? It's supposed to be generally it's targeted at, originally it was targeted at wedding dudes did it, and it was usually couples, like the big successful studios. I actually worked for one, not doing boudoir though, but doing some wedding stuff when I first moved to Miami, and they're a huge boudoir studio back in the day. I don't know if they still do it, but that's kind of what it was. It was you're going to get married, so you get this sexy pictures that you're supposed to give as a gift to your husband to be or whatever. But it was usually couples. So then you get these dudes that are I just do boudoir. It's well, you're just a guy wanting to shoot half naked. Let's be honest.
Well, I love how they're experts on it all of a sudden because they learn the word boudoir or something like that. It's so you look at the images. There's either two things that happen. One, they're terrible, or two, they're doing something you've seen 8 zillion times. So then the shot is really for the client, which is usually a civilian, a private person that wants to feel super hot and having a cool, really nice photos of themselves in this setting. And then I'm kind of well, what is the image really existing for anyone else's means? I'm wondering what it is.
Right. Well, that's it. That says, and again, I don't know the whole history, but when I first discovered it, it was that kind of thing. And I kind of get that. It's and I've actually done photo shoots like that, though. I did not call it boudoir, where somebody was I want to give this as a gift to my, significant other. Could be a man or a woman, that's being photographed. And that's kind of cool, but yeah, just to shoot it randomly, I don't really understand the point of the pictures.
Well, that's the thing. That's what happened. So not to be a down note, but how many times have we seen Instagram models tell us how much they're bombarded by DMs from people that are oh, want to shoot together. And that's the one thing they go right to. It's not hey, let's shoot on the street. Hey, let's do something cool. No, it's let's go right to boudoir. It's you don't know each other. You don't know the workflow. You don't have any references. And you think right off the bat, you have someone who's talking to you virtually going to allow you into a bedroom solo. Like, where's your head on this, you know? So your intentions seem off, even if they're not.
Yeah, exactly. It's all you approach it. So Vanessa, yes, I am talking about you. Actually, you might have good insight here because being Vanessa Joy, if you guys don't know, is a very big, not big physically,
Holy
wedding
shit.
photographer here in the New York area. Yeah, I'm not sure if she does that kind of stuff or not. I never talked about it, but that's where I encountered it first. And it seemed like everybody that was doing it was either, I guess, female wedding photographers, which there's more of now, I guess, than I remember seeing when I first started. But a lot of couples do weddings, and that was kind of the thing, right? So it was like not so creepy because it was like an old married couple. Maybe that does make it more creepy. But anyways, Ronald, you don't have to. The picture, they weren't nude pictures I put up there, so because you have to be unsafe for kids to. I don't know how that works because I don't put nude pictures on Instagram.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, James? We're doing pretty good. I mean, we're just getting through it like everybody else, I guess, right? I mean,
nude photo to black and white. Yeah, there you go. When I was a kid, boudoir was the catalog. I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
bedroom, right? Yeah.
Also, like every time I don't know about you, but every time I see that on someone's listing, I just kind of click off. I just don't care. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, right. I think it's a very specific thing. Like, I mean, you'd be better off saying something like glamour or lingerie or nude or whatever you want to call it. But the word boudoir really has this like weird, like other meaning that I don't know why people.
It
I don't
seems
even
like
know how
it's
we get.
sugarcoating or like making a
Yeah.
PG rated version of what they probably really want to shoot. And it's fine. Whatever you want to shoot out there, go shoot it. But don't mislead people. Don't mislead clients. Don't have hidden intentions, hidden motives, and try to do something that makes it worthwhile, like your own spin, a different point of view, something you haven't seen before. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So we're done with that.
oh,
We're
look,
done with.
Stuart wants us to move on.
We're moving on.
Oh
Hold on,
man.
Stuart. Are you a boudoir
We
photographer?
we can only talk about what people let us talk about, you know. It's just one
Well,
of
it's
those
true.
things.
It's actually very funny, though, because there was a question now I can't remember which chat it was I was talking to, and they were talking about how you, like, what do you do if your significant other is like not happy with you, like, being a photographer, meaning basically photographing. I think specifically they said it was a question to me, I guess, photographing, beautiful women or whatever. And right, well, what's your intention? It all kind of ties into the same thing. If you're doing it for uh, the reasons that may not be ideal when you're in a relationship, that's not cool.
Well, I don't think
Otherwise,
it's well, there's underlying issues, right? Like I've dated girls and they've had issues sometimes, but one, if your trust and security isn't there in the relationship, it was going to be doomed somewhere else anyway besides this. And two, it's usually not that they think you have intentions, it's that your attention is going to someone else, even if it's just for like an hour. And it happens, and I get it. There is an intimacy level there because you are by yourselves, you're connecting and creating something together. Their vulnerability is in your hands. You know, there's a whole lot of things going on there that do have a level of intimacy, even if it's not sexual or romantic, there is something there.
no, yeah, 100%. I think it was, oh God, no, I can't think of the name of the photographer. The guy that the blow up is about, David, whatever. Anyways, David something. Look it up. He basically said is famous for quoting that he falls in love with every one of his subjects just for the photo shoot. Like that's like one of the, like that's not exactly this. He said it much more eloquently than I did, but there is that thing, right? But that's not the same thing as like you're doing it because you're trying to get some kind of thing you're not getting in your personal relationship. So I guess it's all about intent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think intent is probably the first thing you have to realize when you're shooting. How many times have we said this? When you're starting to do a shoot, the first things you ask yourself is, what am I shooting and why am I shooting it, right? And that gives you an end goal of a successful image because you went towards a goal. So if I'm shooting a model, it's kind of like, well, am I shooting a portrait of who she is? Am I shooting the makeup she's wearing? Am I shooting the wardrobe she's wearing for a client? Am I shooting a scene? Am I shooting a character she's supposed to be playing? Like each one of those decisions sets you off in a different path because you can't have it all in the same image, really. You can't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that also, that does tie into you know, equipment choices, lighting choices, location choices, fundamentally everything that you do comes into that one area, right? So if your intention is to create, let's say you were saying to capture a portrait of somebody, you might want to do it somewhere that relates to something that they do in their life. You know, you could do it specific, like a location portrait. If they're an artist, let's say you could, being very vague here in general, but if they're an artist, you could shoot it like in their studio. If they're, you know, if they are an athlete, you might shoot them doing something in that vein, you know, as a portrait.
No, first of all, the chat's saying a bunch of stuff that's going to get really icky. I'm not saying photographing guys is okay or hot cars. I'm not saying that no one should shoot whatever they want to shoot, but don't ever mislead somebody for some other intention other than a body of work you're trying to create. And I just think that there has to be a trust level there, because otherwise, where do you think all these horror stories come from? Then you go to try to get a model for your shoot, and there's a whole lot of defense going on there because of some of the stuff that happened in their past, like a horrible photographer that treated them badly, that never gave them shots, that wasted their time, wasted their money. Models have to spend money on their look, their transportation, eating that day. Like they're they're employing themselves.
Yeah. I don't think that we're saying you can't photograph beautiful women. If that was the case, I would be out of business. I mean, that's basically what I did for my whole career. And yes, I've shot eye candy photos. I mean, but I guess I don't even know how we got into this whole conversation. But the idea of like boudoir oftentimes is a way to cover up or disguise what you're really trying to do. You know, if you're trying to shoot pinup-y, sexy, Playboy, Maxim, whatever these magazines that have sexy girls, the magazines don't exist anymore, then that's just what you're doing. You know, boudoir is very specifically something else, I think. I mean, that's the reason why we started talking.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with any of it. I mean, it's all there. It's all about just knowing, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing.
But
Uh,
stigmas come from somewhere. I'm just saying. Like
well, that's true. But also, well-established people are also creeps. We know creepy photographers that hit on and grab women and touch them and stuff that are established photographers. So, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, how many times are you going through, like, let's say Instagram, and you couldn't even tell someone's portfolio from another because it's just, there's so much of the same, you know?
Well, I think that's just common anyways. People are going to try to imitate what they see.
It's
And
true.
Instagram especially, you've got this mix. Remember that not everybody on there is a professional or even wants to be. They're just
It's true.
putting their pictures up.
Unfortunately, though, people that rest on Instagram, like if Instagram closed tomorrow, are you still a pro photographer? Are you still a model? Like that's kind of the question I always ask: is this a place to display your work or what you're doing, or is it really what's fueling your world?
Right. Yeah. I think everything we're talking about now, if we were getting this, we're very deep and emotional today. It's all about like making sure that your intentions are clear. This is true about everything in life. You know, if you have a plan to do something, you should just be honest about that. And if what you're doing is photographing, like if you are, let's say, have a great eye and you like to take great pictures and you just enjoy doing it because it allows you to spend time with people, then you could just say that. You know, you don't have to try to put it off like you're something else. You can just be like, this is my hobby. I really like doing it. I think that you're very beautiful or handsome or your car is very nice, whatever you're photographing. I would like to do that. And this is just for the pleasure of us doing it. And that's totally fine
Yeah,
with me.
but there's also work to be put in so that you can become trusted, not credited, not a pro, being trusted. You got to put out work that is proof of concept that you're able to do this, and thus people will trust you to come work with them. And that goes for any genre of photography you're working in, whether it's boudoir, product, or whatever. And you start off by shooting friends. You start doing things that maybe aren't that genre but close to it. You know, you don't have to go and look for the hottest girl on earth to hopefully get her naked. I'm sorry, like there's a lot of people that jump into doing that. How many times have we done open shoots and it was more about them interacting with a girl than actually shooting? We've run those things.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's definitely people because they're okay. Going back to what I said, they're the intent of the open shoot because we're setting it up is that people are there to learn photography. If you
Yeah.
show up there and your intention is to try to pick up a girl or a guy or whatever you're trying to pick up, then you're doing the wrong thing. And that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just as bad as doing it yourself because the shoot
Yeah.
is not for that. And I think that's what I mean by that. But you can
No,
literally do that. You could be like, hey, you meet somebody on a dating site and say, I like to take photos. Our date could be that I go out and take photos. That could be a thing. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, I would never, as long as that's upfront, that's I guess my thought there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right. That got on a tangent.
It's because we were talking about creepy stuff before we started. That's
It's true. It's true. But I also think you and me, honestly, let's be real. We've been talking on live stream probably twice a day for the last week or two.
Yeah.
So after a while, this is the conversation that's left. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of going with it. You know? Oh boy, there's
Yeah,
a
I
whole
think I think
bunch
I've
of stuff.
probably said this before, and I will say it now, and because I like to point out how I got corrected. So this is the perfect example that I was in art school, and we had to shoot nude photos. So something that we had to do. Everybody had to pose nude and shoot nudes. So every one of us, uh,
Oof,
somewhere
that's a
out there,
lot of vulnerability.
yeah.
Oh boy.
So and it was one of the most embarrassing times I've ever had. My pictures went up to review, and the teacher looked at it, and she looked at me and she said, "Nice tits," and that's the whole review I got. And I was like, "Ooh," and I realized after really looking at my work that, yeah, when I shot this vulnerable, like you said, nude female, I was shooting it in an overly sexualized way because I wasn't able to kind of just look at the form and the beauty of it. And then I went back and refocused myself and made better photos
Yeah.
because it's not easy to get past, especially if you're young, you know. So yeah,
But
it was super
there's
embarrassing, and you know, but it's a lesson, and we
but we
all take.
talked about this years ago. We talked about how it's a responsibility. Once it gets to that, it's a responsibility on you to handle it correctly. Uh, get the skin tones correct, get the anatomical landscapes correct. You know, not just shoot it for the appeal sexually or whatever. But I think you're frozen, Dan. I
You know,
think Dan's
the
frozen.
stream looks frozen. Yeah, there we go. It's back. Yeah,
I
it
think
jumps sometimes.
you got some internet issues, my friend.
Yeah, it's back now.
All right.
Unless it's frozen on
Anyway,
your end, I can.
no, the Zoom call got frozen for a second on my end.
Oh,
Is what it is.
yeah. Anyways, turned down the mall because she wanted pictures with a suit jacket and no bra. Yeah, I don't really like that look either, but we've had that discussion. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I shot Vanessa with no bra, no shirt, and with the jacket on. You know, it
Yeah.
happens.
Well, the thing is, it's not right. So you can make these kind of things. Like I remember once I said I would never use a gold reflector, and then like people that dwelled on me forever. People would be like, "Oh, you used it here." All right, you can never say never. I mean, there's a time and a place where any shot that you describe could be a good and appropriate shot,
Mhm.
and there is a time and a place to use a gold reflector. But
Oh
yeah, I
man.
think that there's the reason why I tend to not like that shot when I see it is because I've been around too many people that use that as a uh, like a stepping stone to try to get something else. You know, it's like kind of like, well, you know, just do this. But if it's their idea or they want to do it, then I have no problem with it.
You want to be famous, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. On Coco.
Well, how many times have we been in a studio and like the model completely steered it to a completely different place,
Yeah.
bananas, and who knows what else went on. And, like the studio turns into, or no, it's a 50-50 collaboration sometimes. You're
Yeah.
not hiring a model because they're just another piece in the puzzle that you're creating. Sometimes that's the shoot, is the back and forth. And Marissa, right? Marissa was supposed to do straight up headshots with you, and she came with these giant paper hats. So you steered the entire shoot that way. I mean, you have to be able to roll with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's if you're doing that kind of shoot. I mean, clearly, if it's a commercial gig, then you got to do what the art director kind of had planned. But at least at the beginning. But yeah, if you're working with somebody, it's a collaboration. You need to be flexible. And if somebody is trusting enough in you to just kind of go for it, then you can get all kinds of crazy cool stuff. That's well
Yeah.
beyond what you would normally thought.
That's kind of part of the reason you're working with them, is what they bring to the table. And sometimes it's their battiness. I mean, what do you want? You know, it's like, oh man. By the way, guys, I'm just gonna do a self plug here while we're in a down note. If you want to watch me, Dan, and Joe McNally talk, you can join my Twitch channel, and it's sitting there in back catalog, like 2 videos back. Boom, right there. Oh, it won't let me put a link in. Boo.
That's right. It won't. Can't pull that shit on my
Boo.
channel, brother. Can't pull it on
Boo.
my yeah.
Boo,
Yeah,
Daniel Norton.
go
Boo.
see Seth on Twitch. No, when it pops up in the chat, I'll be able to I'll be able to okay it, I think. Yeah, that was super fun. Joe is awesome.
Joe's great. And he's like chilling right now. He's like, well, I guess I'm not going to the Olympics. So here I am. Let's go on live stream with Dan and Seth.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't obviously feel obliged to do any shoot just because somebody suggests it, just like the model shouldn't feel that way either. Everybody should be feeling good about whatever the concept is.
Comfort levels go both way. Absolutely. Absolutely. What they don't realize is that every time they put an image out there with your name on it, that's your reputation. So if you're not comfortable shooting something or having work out there you're not confident in, it affects you just as much as it does them for their look. See, Dan goes silent because he's reading, so it turns it. So this is like the complete opposite of my streams. I'm like, rah!
No, well, you're talking. And I'm just looking at this to see what's happening. I'm also looking for your comment, but it didn't come up at all. It just told you couldn't do it.
It just said no. It gave me a big red nope.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because sometimes it comes up and I can, because like when people put swear words and stuff in there, I would just, those all get blocked. My channel is not for that.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
All good.
But
Your
anyways,
channel's like 10 times the size of mine, so it's like, it's like whatever.
well,
You put out a video a day though.
I've been trying to put out a video a day. I mean, I'm trying to always with this channel be as positive as possible. So, we're kind of being a little negative now, but that's more just to kind of to give you an idea of where you should be, because I think that it's easy to do something that may not be like you think it's totally fine, but you have to remember that there's two people. It's kind of a conversation I was having with Sharina yesterday. It's like sometimes you might say something and you're like, well, that's whatever. Don't be a baby. Don't be offended by that. But you don't know what's going to offend or hurt somebody. So you need to, when dealing with people, you need to really interact with them in a way that is, as careful as possible until you know them. That's my philosophy. That's not your philosophy, but that's how I look at it.
Well, there's also the fact that we always say it every time that this is built on relationships, this industry. So if you had an experience with somebody working, and even if it seemed like everything went okay, if you said something that stuck in their head and later on they're just like, you know what, I don't need to work with that guy again. And then that starts growing and spreading. There's things that evolve that way. So you have to kind of, you can't ever be too cautious, and you don't know where someone else's headspace is at. I mean, me and Dan have shot models that day broke up with their boyfriend or hypersensitive or lost their job or lost the gig, and they're just completely not in the right headspace for this. It happens, and you have to be sensitive to that. And you also have to be able to put yourself in their shoes. There's so much vulnerability on the line during a photo shoot, even if it's corporate portraits. You have somebody that's not comfortable being in front of a camera, but they're being forced to have their photo taken for a company. That's vulnerability.
Yeah, 100%. And it can be a lot of things. Like I didn't realize until, again, speaking of the conversation I just had with Sharina, that she brought some of the pictures up and she's like, these are some of the favorite pictures that we made together, because this was the first shoot that I actually feel comfortable after her father had passed away. And I didn't even know that, I mean, I knew that he passed away, but I didn't know like that she had been like not able to smile, whatever. And she was able to do it during the shoot. And it's like these photos that we make can be really important. So, you got to look at it that way. So Francisco is asking, listen to many photographers, tend to blah, blah, blah. You should find your style. You can't seem to find your style. Is there a way to explore your style? Well, the way that I think the best way to do it is, what I would say is that you may already be developing a style and you might not realize it. What you have to do is look at stuff that you've done in the past and look for something that is consistently there. It could be the subject matter. It could be the way you use light. It could be just your general, the way that you handle the post process. I mean, a lot of that can be part of your style. So you may already be developing a style and you might not realize it, because a lot of times we don't reflect enough on our work. So it's good to look back at work and see like, hey, and I seem to always, shoot with like, I don't know, whatever it is. I shoot love with what do I shoot with, Seth? I shoot with a lot of light from the back, that might become part of what's becoming your style. So what I would say to that is, don't necessarily look at it like, I have to build my style. I'm going to start here and go forward building my style. Look back at what you've done and then see what it is that you're actually doing subconsciously without trying to do it. And that probably is the key to finding your style.
I also think that is huge, but also stop focusing on that. And when you start creating decisions, actually not creating decisions, when you start making decisions while you're shooting that constantly start getting consistent, like I do a lot of cold blue rims and I like over stylized lighting sometimes. That became my style because I kept on making common decisions, right? And after a while, your body of work has this feel. Like a lot of people hate when I shoot super wide angle portraits. I fucking love it, and fuck those people. So that's what I do, and that became part of my style. And it's not for everybody, but it's for me, and it's the work I want to produce. So then that's it. If you don't like it, unplug from me, and that's all. So you have to kind of be organic with letting your style take its place, but you have to have enough confidence to make the decisions that you're sticking to, knowing that, well, I'm going to shoot Daniel today. Well, here's the way I'm going to light him because I feel like this would happen and that would happen if I went this direction. You're already making decisions right off the bat as a photographer and thus solidifying your style.
Right,
Also
exactly.
influences,
Yeah, and I
like,
think people use those words, like style and stuff, too much in marketing terms, and that's not really how I look at it.
yeah,
You
I'm with
know,
you.
part of it is how you'll market yourself later on because people, will hire you for your style, of course. But yeah, it's not something you should try to create. A style is not something you can send out like a logo. It's something that comes from you, and there's a lot of things that influence it. So I think we're kind of saying the same thing. You got to look at what you do. What you do naturally is your style. And what I also find is super interesting is I like a lot of photography that is not my style. And if I try to emulate it, I do a shitty job. And I just know that's not what I do because I can look at it and be like, oh, I'm going to do something like this. And when I start shooting, I don't do that thing. I do what I always do because that's my
Yeah.
style.
It's
And
like
you'll
talking
find,
in someone else. It's like talking in someone else's vocabulary. Like people that use big words for the sake of using big words are the same type of people that shoot gimmicky styles for the sake of shooting the gimmick.
that's
So it's just kind of what?
that's right.
Yeah. And also for whoever's asking me about the D850, yeah,
Oh,
I still shoot a D850. So it's right
nice.
here.
There it is. Yeah, I think trying to find a core group of models. It's true. You find, and again, when you're finding people to work with, again, it will happen naturally. Like I didn't go out there and go, oh, I'm looking for somebody to shoot with. I just found that I kept calling the same people because those are the ones I enjoyed shooting with. So that is something that's super useful, especially when you want to explore. Exploring brand new stuff with models you've never worked with before can be tricky,
I'm not
unless that's
angry.
what.
I'm from Brooklyn. I'm not angry. I'm from Brooklyn. It's that simple.
But but sometimes that's something you're going for. I think we've probably talked about this before. I don't know if everyone on stream. I went through a long period where I was shooting stuff that was a little like very dark, and I almost always shot with people who had never been photographed before. It was one of the things I did. I was that creep. I literally would post on Craigslist, and back when before Craigslist was all Craigslist is gone now, right? But it used to be a place where you could like headshot photographers would post and stuff, and I would literally be like, I'm looking for somebody who's never modeled before, that just wants to be photographed and that's willing to be vulnerable in front of the camera or something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
not exactly that. But I wrote this thing. And then if they wrote to me, we had a conversation. I showed them my work. They saw I was a professional. I have a studio in Manhattan. And they would come. And this whole series of shots was people who had never been photographed as a model. I mean, clearly everybody's been photographed. So it was really super interesting to see how that interaction was because they had to be, and some people were completely it didn't come out great in a sense because they couldn't release themselves. Other people became models I shot, who became people that I shot a
Yeah.
bunch because they just were like, wow, this is such a cool interrelated a way for us to share something. So it can exist.
Yeah. I don't know.
Have you had clients share your photos but add a filter or crop them? How did you handle it? Oh, I'll let Seth take this one.
Well, actually, I just wanted to go back to what you just said because I shot a lot for schools, right? I shot for makeup schools. So those makeup artists that were in that makeup school were never models. So I had to, first of all, make them feel comfortable, then make them feel comfortable when they're not feeling like themselves with whatever work was on them. So that exercise for like 10, 12 years has made things, I know I come off abrasive and aggressive and intense here, but if Dan's seen me shoot, I think people kind of get into going, oh, well, then there's no real, I don't have to be insecure here because I can say this and say that, and no one's going to freak out. So it's kind of this, it breaks down a lot of barriers of structure and formularity that that's the way I go with it. What was the question on that you said?
Oh, if a client's ever taken your image, put filters on, et cetera, and how do you handle it? Or how
So
did
I
you handle
usually tell them just don't credit me on the photo. And if they do, and it's a commercial piece and they have someone retouch it because I don't retouch, I just tell them, please credit the editor as well as me if I'm the photographer, because I don't want people thinking that that's the way I released an image. So that's just how I handle it.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't, yeah, I usually don't really care, but yeah, if they're going to do an extended edit to it, then I would prefer that they would, say that in the comment. But a lot of my clients, let's say were commercial clients, so they did all the retouching, so I didn't do any of it. And then now if I'm doing headshots and stuff, even now, like if I do headshots for somebody, well, I prefer to just not have them retouched at all. But if they're going to, I usually have them send it to a professional retoucher because I don't do that
Yeah.
work. So to me, you know, a lot of times they're doing it. As long as they, but I think the question comes about because you're probably thinking, I'm assuming I'm reading in your head that, you make a beautiful photo of somebody, then they put some crazy Instagram filter on it that makes the photo jacked up looking. Yeah, I would prefer that they say something about it.
Well, also, I'll just usually go when someone's in my studio, you have to kind of educate them about how you shoot and why you're shooting it that way and why you believe this image is looking the way it is and why you're favoring it that way. And that way, when they go home and they put on their phone, they don't do what every 5 people that get their photo taken do and throw, hey, let me swipe through a bunch of filters till something looks like I want it to be. Because that's how they grew up. That's how they were trained. That's how they see the world now. They didn't go to get a BFA or an MFA. They don't know what they're looking at. They just know that this is the images they see popular people putting out there, and they emulate that. They're putting Snapchat filters on their freaking face. Like, come on,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes though you have to let go. So I wouldn't restrict people, but if they're going to do something very crazy, my opinion is exactly what Seth said. I would say, make sure you either don't credit me if it's so far out, or, say such and such filter or editor or whatever.
And usually that starts a conversation with that person. And they go, well, why are you not wanting me to credit this after we spent all day shooting this or whatever? And you basically let them know why it's not the image you're proud of. And then they get into the headspace of what a better image is, what you were trying to do. And they might not work with you again, which maybe you want, or they start realizing how they should respect the other side of the photo, that they went to you, they shot with you, they went for your style. Don't, if you're showing them your work, they should know what they should expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think they're right, but people will tend to. I mean, they might drop a filter on just because they want to. I mean, I don't really have a huge problem with small, but anyways, that's yeah.
Vanessa is actually interesting there. Do you see that?
What is?
Vanessa says, I had to stop being mad about crops and filters. All my clients do it because she's shooting a lot of brides, right?
Yeah.
Plus, I shoot a lifestyle photography with a branded Instagram. They have to make it match their aesthetic. That's interesting. Are you frozen again?
No, I'm reading.
You're just Daniel. You're just Daniel.
Well, I'm reading it. Yeah, I mean, of course, when you do commercial photography, you have to assume they're going to do shit to your work. I actually have a video where I talk about this. So
it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the general question was geared more towards like we shoot a model, like let's say we do a shoot for a model or a headshot, and then you see it on Instagram and they put like 7 filters on. You're like, why the hell did they do that? I think that's what the question was asking. I mean, I could be. That's a little different than commercial stuff to me. Will I ever do a live photo critique? Maybe. We did it once before. Seth does them all the time though, so go on to his Twitch.
Yeah, I might actually do one last night on my Twitch channel. You're welcome to come hang out and be part of that community if you like. Daniel has his own room that he never walks into, so that's always good.
I have a Discord room. I was there once.
What's my go-to lens? I don't I use a lens often, but I don't ever call it my go-to lens because I try to look at what I'm doing and I try to assess what I'm going to use for it. But if I had to say there's a lens I always keep on my camera, it's probably the 24-120 f4. It's a glorified kit lens, but it's also gotten me 7 cover pages, so I'm cool with it. So I'm cool.
That was a humble brag, by the way. If you ever want to Google humble brag,
shut up. Shut your friggin' face.
That may have been the perfect humble brag. But what's my favorite lens? Well, I shot 7 covers.
How many people gave me shit for that lens over the years? And you've been there when they basically tell me why it's a piece of garbage lens. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I use this lens for the characteristics it has. And for me, I'd rather have a long range while I'm shooting fast than take 5 minutes every time I have to change a lens for a different look. What people don't realize is when you shoot high volume, every 5-10 minutes stacks up and you lose an hour, 2 hours out of the day at the end because you were swapping a lens out. I'd rather have the distance of focal to get the focal range, I should say, to get the wide angle extremes that I want, the compressed, stretched out lens for the out of focus ear and the sharp eye garbage I do, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think too that, and again, this is whatever. I'm sure there's plenty of professionals that do this too, but I find it's a mistake we step into early on in photography, and I joke about it a lot. Is I bought an f2 lens, I got to shoot at f2. Like most commercial shit, see now you got me swearing, Seth.
Yeah.
Most commercial shit, you're not shooting wide open. Lenses that are sharp wide open, oh, that's awesome. Yay. Camera manufacturers can make sharp lenses. I don't think I've maybe a handful of times in my career ever shot a job wide open. You usually are closed down a bit. So having an f4 lens and you're closing down to 5.6, whatever, it's sharp. You don't have to worry about that.
I'm shooting FX at f13 most times because the prosthetics are so thick that if you were to get the eye in focus, you actually get the makeup out of focus. So I'm shooting so tight as it is. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that that's part of the. It's one of the reasons why I talk about like these most like camera and lens reviews are kind of worthless for most people because they're always looking at those things, and those things are not that useful unless you do that. Like if you just shoot wide open all the time, then maybe that matters to you. But so few people do that. I just can't see that being
Yeah,
super
but
important.
Dan, we talk about this all the time. You use the characteristics of the tool, not if it's the best at whatever. So people go after cheap plastic lenses all the time because they give flares, they have broken coatings, they have weird bokeh because there's like diaphragm blades that are weird. Like there's characteristics to everything. Anya Anti shoots with some of the most like ghetto pieces of Russian glass out there because it gives her this crazy swirly bokeh that in the past people thought was ugly. They didn't like it, but she thought it was great.
Bokeh.
Bokeh. Oh, the bokeh. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, there's certain people that do
presets
stuff
in
like that.
bokeh.
Yeah, and I guess I speak from the point of view of a commercial photographer. So whenever I'm making a statement, I mean, I think you have to keep that in consideration. Whoever you're talking to, they have their background. So there's probably people that shoot wide open all the time. I don't think it's a big deal. So for me, I'd rather, like Seth said, I'd rather have the range of a lens than have an f2 lens in most cases.
Yeah, prime glass is amazing though. You've had an 85 that like knocked my brain out. The 105 I use, I'm so happy with, and it's like probably one of the cheapest lenses I own, probably that on a commercial that I use for commercial stuff.
Yeah, but you still don't usually shoot it wide open. So again, that's why I say super fast lenses. But I made a video about this. Well, I made a lot of videos. The reason why you buy like fast lenses isn't usually because they're fast. It's because overall those are the better design lenses as well. So that's what I would say there. ELO's
Yeah,
44.
I think people get obsessed with this idea of it looks separated in depth and automatically beautiful if something is out of focus and something is sharper. And that's just like one um not feature, but one part of your game. That's one style. That's one gimmick to put in there. I don't know. It's what would you call it? Technique. It's
Yeah,
and you use techniques for what they're used for, not overuse them,
exactly. Technique is not style. I
Yeah.
mean, it not necessarily, right? I mean, your style could involve using certain techniques, but technique in and of itself is not style. So that's important to know. But yeah, I do answer the question. I usually use some kind of a 24-70 for my kind of go-to lens because it's usually what's on my camera. If I could only have one lens, I'd probably pick a 50. I'm a pretty big 50 shooter.
Yeah. I think because it depends on what I'm shooting, right? So if I'm doing something environmental, I like 35s. I'm pretty into 35s. If I'm shooting portraiture, I like my range from the 24 to 120, obviously, because but if I'm not trying to be extreme with things, a nice 50 millimeter is basically your eye. It feels organic, like you're there. The viewer feels like they're participating a little bit. But a stretched out lens, man, 70 millimeters just isn't enough for me. If I'm going for it, I want that 105, that 120, that 180. I like a long stretch when I do that kind of stuff.
No, I agree with that. I think that's probably. I mean, there is no 20. Well, actually, now I have the Nikon, so I could get a 24 to 120. But when I only had 24 to 70 because actually that's all they made for the Z at the time. I don't know if they're making the 24 to 120 yet.
They didn't
Anyways,
for the Z mount yet. I
yeah,
have an extra one. You want to try it out? I got an extra one.
I've used that. I mean, because I was gonna say I'm kind of like you. Like to me, like I would go to 70 and then I would jump to like 150 or 200. Like when I used to have a 70 to 200 and a 24 to 70, those are my two like main Canon lenses. I shot most of the time with the 24 to 70, somewhere around 50, and then I'd shoot at 200. Like I very rarely shoot at like 100. It's like to me that's like you either do it or you don't.
I think the only time I really want fast glass, so to speak, is when I'm doing something in an environment that I can't set something up, like having a wider focal length that has a wide aperture, 1.4 or whatever, can save you some problems you're having. But if you're already shooting super wide open, everything's razor thin anyway. So once you get into like 50, 85 millimeter or beyond, that depth of field becomes almost useless for photojournalism or things like that. So it's only optimal, in my opinion, when I'm doing wide glass in a low light situation.
Yeah, well, the other benefit that I think a lot of people maybe don't realize is that your camera's autofocus system, in most cases, it uses the lens to focus. So faster glass will generally give you better autofocus.
Mm. All
Yeah,
right.
that's the other thing.
Well, the other thing with autofocus is your lenses have a short rotation for the focus, which makes it faster for autofocus. So if you go to get like a manual lens, you're going to have like a really long, uh, usually you'll have like a long rotation on the lens. So people don't get that either sometimes when they're buying older glass.
Yeah, and that can be super useful, by the way. It's actually very useful if you're tracking somebody, having a longer throw, unless they're going really fast. Tracking with a lens that has a longer throw is actually much better. That's why filmmakers like them.
Yeah, the cinema glass is insane. That's why the Irix lenses are kind of fun to use because they feel like cinema glass when you're focusing, but some people just can't get past the fact that it doesn't have autofocus, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. Actually, see, I hear that all the time, Justin. Nobody asks a painter what kind of brushes they use. Yeah, they do. Talk to a painter. They
Yeah,
do. They talk about brushes.
people
They talk about paint. They talk about wash. They talk about canvases. All that stuff's important to a painter.
people think they can buy a skill, and that's the issue. Is they go like, I want to shoot an image that kind of looks like that. What do I need? They don't think that they have to invest in these. They think they have to invest in gear, and that somehow equates to you being a better photographer. Nothing's going to make you a better photographer except yourself. Nothing.
Yeah, 100%. And knowing what tools do doesn't make that this whole extreme of like it doesn't matter is not true either. It's like it does matter. You just have to understand why it matters for what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
this extreme of like the gear makes you better is wrong, whether you're a painter or a photographer, and the idea that it does nothing is wrong as well. It's somewhere in the middle.
But it has to
Yeah.
apply to what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
people that are shooting high volume don't want to deal with gear that'll break down on them. There's reasons for whatever.
No, I agree. And not every piece of every function of every camera or every lens or whatever is needed for every photographer. Really, that's why there's so many different things.
Yeah. How's the chat doing?
Took me ages to find us. Why did it take you ages to find us? Were we hiding?
Hey, Robbie. Robbie just made me new intro music, and it's more punk, and I'm digging it.
Oh, nice.
You guys
Yeah.
make us better. We learn from you. Yeah, don't learn from me. I just bitch, and you guys take stuff that works for you. I don't know.
Yeah. No. We learn from you, Seth.
The thing is, okay, so let's talk about this for a second. I've had people come up to me and tell me they're watching all these videos, not just us, but whatever channels they're out there, and they still feel like they're not getting any better because you have to apply it. You have to go there and shoot. You have to go there and spot what's happening while you're changing things and shooting and what decisions to make and how to actually make the technical work for you. The tech will always come. You just have to actually apply it and be experienced in it.
Yeah, no, I agree. See, I'm not going to buy it. You're not going to win on this because now Mark's coming in. A screwdriver is a screwdriver. No. And I'll give you an actual perfect example. I literally was going to fix something around my house like 4 years ago, and my father was with me, and he's like, "You're only going to use that thing one time. Let's just go to Harbor Freight." And I don't know if anybody knows what Harbor Freight is.
Yeah.
They make like this cheap Chinese like junk. Normally, I buy like better tools because I figure I have a house. I'm going to have them forever. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't really need to spend $100. So I went and bought this $20 tool. I literally broke it doing it. Then it wasted my time. I had to go back. They
Wait.
gave me my money back, but like I wasted the time going there buying it. I wasted the time trying to fix it and breaking the tool. Then I went back to return it. Then I finally went and bought the good tool and did the job in like 2 seconds. And I was like, my time is money. And that's the same thing with photo equipment. It's like if you buy something that might or might not work, then you're risking your time, and maybe that matters, or maybe it doesn't, depending on what you're doing. So tools
Actually,
are not. Yeah.
So I'm with you, but Josan, I guess, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I apologize. But he says, sure, it does matter. But I believe that nowadays any camera can get the job done. It depends on what the job is. If you're shooting something on a small sensor and you're expecting not to get noise and you're trying to do something ultra clean for a job that's commercial, let's say they want me to shoot the tip of a Mont Blanc pen. You're not going to get that off of a sensor that can't pull a clean image.
Exactly. That's the thing. You need to look at what you're doing and why. And very specifically, I can tell you in a commercial sense that I got a client once and had them for many years because and I know this because I could tell from my eye and my experience that the person that shot the catalog before me used a DSLR type camera, full frame, whatever you want to call it back then. And I looked at it and I was like, and I looked at the previous catalogs and I could tell they were shot medium format. I could tell. And I'm like, the client was like, yeah, we hired this photographer here, and like the work just wasn't up to par. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, the lighting's very similar. The main difference between these is that the images are not as good because it's not shot with medium format. So I shot the first season with a medium format camera, and they were just like, wow, yes. And I'm like, I literally did the same thing that guy did, but that guy cheaped out and shot with a full frame because he probably watched on YouTube, this is just as good or better than, or DxR review said that this, camera. No, it's not the same. Large sensor makes a huge difference. So I got a client, had him for many years, and made a lot of money because I looked at it and used the right tool for the job.
Also, there's people that throw, like, let's say Leica glass on a different kind of camera, and for some reason it still doesn't look like Leica color or something like that. There's reasons, not that it's wrong or right, but there's things that happen. So it's not that anything can do whatever. Do we have better equipment than ever before? Absolutely. Is it more accessible than ever before? Absolutely. But if you think that, okay, here's a camera right here, why aren't I using this to keep my studio open? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the case. iPhone, don't do it.
Yeah,
So yeah, tools matter. I mean, and you see me, I'm always like, I never remember the name of the camera I'm using. I mean, part of that is me making that statement, jokingly, that it doesn't really matter, because for what I'm doing in that moment, it doesn't matter. But when you're doing work commercially, you really have to have the right tool for the job, and not every tool does the job. So just keep that in mind.
Or the tool will actually make it harder for you. How many times? So I keep saying this, right? The gear should be at a level where it's off my back. It's doing its job. I'm not worrying about it while I'm trying to worry about my job. There's enough variables in a shoot that I don't need to worry about a light shifting, going down, no firing, cameras jamming, batteries going dead on me, all sort of cables. How many times have we had a problem? It was a freaking $5 cable, Dan. How many times was that?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like you can say all you want, like, oh, well, I'm not good enough to see the difference. Maybe not. Actually, what I used to tell people when I was shooting the Hasselblad, they'd be like, oh man, I want to try that. And I would say, don't use this camera unless you're ready to buy it, because you will see a difference. And both good and bad, though. I mean, you'll see image quality, but the camera, I wouldn't use that camera for, I mean, I would because I'm stupid, but I wouldn't use it for like typically like sports. It's not a fast camera. It's not made for that. It's made for beautiful, clean color. It's lightweight. You can take it on locations pretty good in low light because it's got decent high ISO noise. But it's really a camera that's made for taking your time and slowing down and shooting for the finest quality image. If you're a photojournalist, shooting with that would be silly, unless you're doing documentaries.
Yeah. So I mean, look at the GFX 100. I got the amazing chance to shoot that thing, and it was pretty fast for what it was, right? But I wouldn't want to shoot a photojournalism. 100 megapixel camera, 200 megabytes of file, 250 megabytes of file. I can't get that to wire. I'm not doing my job. And they don't even need that resolution. They'll get bogged down and they'll stop pulling you up for jobs because they don't need to deal with your images that they can't handle, or it takes up their storage space. Then you're actually costing them more money because you're eating up more file space on them. So it's just like, you have to wait, and that's a $10,000 camera, and that's not the camera for the job. My $3,000 Nikon is, you know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly. Nicole, have I done videos on shooting guys? I've done a few.
Yeah.
So I've done a couple of live streams. If you go to the live workshop link or playlist, I guess, where I do shooting men versus women. So I kind of talk about the differences. And then I did, probably, it might almost be a couple years back now, I did a video with shooting two people again. I shot Cadence and Andreas in one shot. And right around that same time period, because we shot on the same day, I think, I shot Andreas by himself. So there's a few videos out there if you go through the playlist that are, and probably if you just go to my YouTube site and type in men, you'll probably find it.
Your Ellen Chrome video was banging.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I just did a video for Ellen Chrome with Andres. So yeah, I've done a few. I mean, the vast majority of what I shoot is women. So that's usually what I use in videos.
Yeah, Rich, I'm with you. He's saying, I love the fact that you're talking about photography and skills instead of pushing presets and reviewing gear. Number one, we're not a Consumer Reports guys. We're not there going like, this is a rumor coming out, click here and then hit like, and then my views go up and you'll find my next video. And presets are bullshit. I'm sorry, but like, I don't want to get on this tangent. I really don't. But But have you ever noticed that presets on all these channels are always on sale? They're never the full price. They're always like, now they're only $30. Like, you ever notice that?
So Alex Ajax, I'm sorry, is asking if there's freeware that you could web stream with a DSLR. So there's lots of things that you could stream. You could stream directly to YouTube with anything, but you got to get the camera into your computer. And to do that, you need some kind of an interface. So Seth has a great video on it, right?
So if you're using PC, you can actually use a program called SparkoCam, and it'll get your camera to be a webcam just by USB. So
really,
yeah. So check that out, but it only works for PC. Only works for PC.
Yeah, but how does it plug in?
USB.
To the camera's USB?
Yeah.
So like tethering?
Yeah, but I think it's 720, and it's doesn't take sound.
Right.
So you've got to do the sound separately.
Yeah, so it's getting the live view feed basically. But if you actually want to get the video feed, then you need like an interface, like a cam link would be the recommendation.
Yeah, I think
cheap, but it's simple and it works.
I think we're going to start seeing manufacturers seeing what people are trying to do with the cameras now beyond what they designed them for and go, well, now we need to make these cameras actually work for this situation. Just like stills cameras started becoming video cameras, we'll start seeing them being able to be geared for live streaming, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what you could do probably, and I haven't tried this, but just off the top of my head, I'm thinking if you use, because I got the idea from what you just said, Seth, you could use Capture One and bring up your camera and bring up the live view on it, and then just use OBS to just capture that part of the screen. But again,
it's choppy. But it's choppy.
The Z6 isn't super clean.
The Z6 isn't?
It's not as clean as this, but it's definitely better than. You got to have enough light. You have to light it, of course.
Just do yourself a favor and Google SparkoCam for Mac, and then it gives you these like list of other sharewares. I don't know what works. I don't know what's safe for your computer, so don't mark me on that. But there are softwares out there that do something. But I guarantee you, it's rare that any of them take audio and not just video. So be aware of that.
Yeah, well, that's neat. I didn't know about that. Good. Ted Forbes and Pina McKinnon are doing photo assignments, so that's cool. Yeah, do that. I mean, what you guys should be trying to do now during this time period is shooting. You know, if you're somewhere, you know, that you can get outside, that's great. But if not, shoot what's around you. I mean, there's probably very interesting things just in the room you're in, and it'll make you. It's funny. I never remember the name of the book, and someday I will find it again. When I was a kid, I read this book, and it was literally about basically what happens is I'm very fast here because Seth knows I get these long stories. So basically, this kid throws a ball of like a baseball through this old guy's window. So, you know, he goes and the parents are like, you have to go, whatever. And he goes over there and he's like, well, to work it off, I want you to do something for me. And he basically builds this like grid in his garden. He says, you have to spend like every day for a week in one of these squares and then tell me about it or something, whatever. So basically the kid's like forced to sit in this like 2 yard by 2 yard space in the garden and look at what's there, whether it be a flower or a bug or whatever, and then tell the old man about it. And that's exactly what you can do wherever you are. There's tons of shit in, I'm swearing somewhere. There's tons of stuff around you. Like you could spend all day in a room photographing things you didn't even look at before, using macro, using weird angles, throwing some light on it. So yeah, I mean, get out there and shoot.
Can I add on that? Do some self-portraits. Figure out what it's like to not be behind and get into macro, because macro will get you to start seeing things in your portraiture and other things that you normally don't look at, like geometrics, textures, and stuff like that. And if you don't have a macro lens, here's a quick tip. Take your lens off, turn it around, and manually focus it, because it can be a macro lens if you turn your lens around. And if you, it won't mount, but if you can take like cardboard or like black paper and make like a sleeve, you can make it light tight and then use it as a macro lens. So try doing that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I didn't realize, because they were actually talking about that in the live stream I was doing, because I had used reverse adapters, but it was always that you put them on another lens. It didn't even occur to me that you could just do it right on your camera. That actually is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Apparently there's adapters to do it too. So if you want to.
Yeah, Nikon was the first ones to make that adapter, the rear mount adapter. And it made it possible for people to copy stand 8mm sized film to 35mm.
That's so cool. Yeah, it never even occurred to me that you could do it without a lens. So yeah, that's super cool. I mean, macro is a great thing to try. Maybe I'm probably going to do that actually. The problem is I only have one camera, one of this kind of camera. So for me to shoot and do a video of it is tricky. I'm working on it though. Some people are enamored of photography instead of photographing. Huh, yeah. Relate to music, instruments, blah, blah, blah. Dollars of donuts. Do better with an iPhone camera than some random person.
Oh, I want
No,
donuts.
no. I don't agree
What?
with that. I'm sorry.
Wait,
Okay, so
what?
yes,
What?
okay, so and it's a compliment. Dollar for donuts. Either of you could do better on an iPhone camera than some random person up the street with the Phase One. Probably, if we could just shoot whatever we wanted. But given a certain assignment, somebody, well, okay, general person off the street doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah. But somebody who knows photography a little bit is going to get better results with a better camera. They are, if they're forced to do the job that the Phase One camera is appropriate for. So, yeah.
By
No,
the
I
way,
think it's a
phase
super
ones are
impressive.
insane.
Yeah. I mean,
Insane.
I'm not saying that you instantly get good shots when you shoot with the Phase One, but what I am saying is that if you want to get detail and you want to get, the certain level and, you have the equipment and the ability to use it. I mean, actually, I said this to Seth because I thought it was super funny because sorry, Sony people, we always make fun of Sony people. So my friend is a model and she like has a Sony and she started shooting herself and she's like, damn, I get better pictures with my phone than I do with my Sony. And the reason why is because she doesn't know how to use the Sony properly. The Sony clearly can make better photos, but sure, if somebody who doesn't know anything is gonna.
And for the record, we don't make fun of Sony. What I get on is about the hype around a brand. That is the stuff that bothers me. The Supreme wearing kids buy it and they barely use it, and somehow that became like the best camera in the world because popular people started liking it. It's like, what? So
yeah, I agree with you. No, well, yeah, it's just they're an easy target because that's like the trend. And by the way, that was Canon like 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
with the
when the 5D
with the
Mark II.
5D.
5D Mark II, everybody dropped everything to buy 5D Mark IIs. Every other camera sucked. The 5D Mark II made you a superhero. You could do anything. It was exactly the same. So it's not Sony in particular. It's just that idea. They just have the tightest pants right now.
They have the biggest fedora hats right
exactly.
now, or whatever the hell those kids are wearing.
I'm so far behind on the chat.
Oh, just because Vanessa's in the chat, she's talking about it. Yep, I got Vanessa's book. Boom.
Oh, yeah, nice. I did actually tell people about your book yesterday, Vanessa.
I got a nice acknowledgement in it. Thank you, Vanessa. That was very sweet of you.
So
Thank
small.
you so much. It's
I
actually.
No, I mean it's pretty, but it's small. Was it like A5, A6?
I don't. You got me. I'm never going to write a book in my life. So this is the closest I'm coming, is giving Vanessa Joy tips to relay in this book. So consider that a collaboration.
Yeah, congratulations, Vanessa. I mentioned that yesterday. And people should pick it up on Amazon, I guess.
Hey, Dan, check out this shot. Is it not going to focus?
Is that flashing yourself?
Is it not? No, it's not flash. Is it not focusing? There it is.
You have. Oh, that's pretty cool. Nice. Yeah. Is that's that place that Gene always shoots?
I don't know where that is actually, but it's edited. This is an edited shot, I'm pretty sure, but still, it's a nice image.
No, I think, I mean, Vanessa could tell us, but I think you should. There's a place in New Jersey. It's actually a 9/11 thing. Yeah, and those are like mirrors or whatever.
Yeah, but she gets the sun like in the perfect position to like nail that halo.
Yeah. I went there with Gene. I pretty much have that exact same shot, but of Gene.
I'll have to find it. So you lose.
No doubt. I mean, and there you go. It's like the right shot for the right person, right? Yeah, Gene brought me that. It's actually a really cool spot. If you guys are in New Jersey, once you can actually get out again, that's a beautiful spot.
This is like 6 techniques that I taught Vanessa pulled together in one. So she's taking whatever I show her, and she puts it. This is what I showed her. This thing, where you jam the flash down your lens.
Yeah, the Gavin Hoey thing.
Yeah, everybody's done it. Everyone's done it. But that's the go. So that's a good point. When Vanessa showed me this, she's like, I want to do this, and this guy's using this, and it was a $5,000 parabolic, and I was like, you don't need that. I took a speed light, a normal speed light, and did it in my studio in front of her, and she was like, oh, and I'm like, it's not about a giant fucking parabolic. It's about getting the light to reflect inside the glass of the lens, and that's it. So.
Yeah, I think when Gavin did it, he used actually the B2. I think he did it when we were together on the when we did the Eric's booth the first time with Marissa. I mean, he had just done a video about it. If you roll back, he has a video about it. So if you guys want to know how to do that, you can read the book clearly, but you can also watch Gavin's video.
Everybody's done that technique. Everyone. And you've done it too. If you've gotten light somehow reflecting around your lens, you've done it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're just basically flashing into your lens or using a light source. You can use a hot light for it too, but flash is clearly better.
Where are you on the chat? Because I'm all over the place. Oh my gosh.
Sports folk wide open with the giant telephoto. Studio portraits. I'm
Oh.
not sure they shoot wide open. Maybe only because it's dark in there. I don't know. I'm not really a sports person. I've only really shot tennis and running.
Well,
And
so we just had Jamie Price on Adorama's Facebook, and he shoots car racing, and he doesn't go anywhere below F16.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're shooting. Okay, hold on. I think I went back too far. All right, I'm just going to go to the bottom, guys. I may have missed stuff.
I'm not publishing a book of my images. The only thing I would do is I would want to do a trading card set. I want people to like trade cards of images. So I was actually talking to David Carroll about doing that with Peanut Press. So maybe I'll have a card set. I think that's more fun. I can't type. I can't write. I can't do stuff. So I'm like unless I do the Bruce Lee method where someone just listens to me talk and they write it down for me like his wife did, I can't make a book. So that's it. So that's what he did. He was paralyzed. He broke his back and his wife sat there and just listened to him talk and she organized the book for him and that's how he got the Tao Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, I mean that's one way to do a book is it's ghostwriting. Actually, that's how BoJack Horseman got his book written.
What?
BoJack Horseman?
I don't watch that. Sorry, buddy.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm cooler than you are.
I don't know. I gave that thing like 2 seasons, and I'm like, I'm still not enjoying this.
Well, that wasn't season 1. That was literally the entire plot of season 1.
Was it? No. See, it shows how much it cared. See?
So it clearly didn't stick with you. Anyways. Yeah, so that book is great. And so you can get, anyways, I didn't say, you get it on Amazon, right? If we just go on Amazon, type in Vanessa Joy. And you can
yeah, these are cyanotypes, actually. They're cyanotypes, Van Dyke Browns, Gumby chromates, and Polaroid transfers.
Nice.
So, man, I'm dropping plaster everywhere I grab this thing. Can I grab one of those off the wall? Because this one right here is what's kind of tattooed on me, actually. This one right
Let's see it. Like I've seen it before, but I'm sure these guys haven't.
Oh my gosh. So this is a self-portrait in my parents' garage. Hold on a second. My camera's freaking out on me and I don't know why. There we go. So this is when I was 16, shoelace untied, backpack full of with camera gear wrapped in sweatshirts, cement floor, and then over here is like a blown out highlight to create the silhouette, and that's kind of what's over here somewhere. So, and it's the only copy I have at all. So that's what cyanotypes were, and it's toned with hydrogen peroxide.
Nice.
And then
you can actually make that stuff. That cyanotype is pretty safe.
Yeah,
so you can order
safe.
the kits and actually
They're 2-part kits.
Yeah, the 2-part kits, and you can actually make them. You can coat in. I think cyanotype's not super light sensitive, so just in like a dark-ish room, and then let them dry in complete darkness. Then just put it out in the sun. You can make all kinds of cool stuff with it. You
just need get a decent weight glass and just lay it down to press a negative of some type onto the paper, or even just shapes. You know, like people put leaves down and stupid stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking. But what I was thinking, you could actually even print like a very like high contrast photo, like on just regular printer paper, and it would go through it eventually. It'll just take forever. We actually did that live. The only time I believe ever done on YouTube in the history of the world, we built a darkroom in Adorama, and we shot 4x5, and then we went out and printed cyanotypes.
So case in point, this is my father's MRIs because those were film, right? Man, why is my camera freaking out? So this is my dad's MRIs. So you can see his eyeballs connecting to his brain. And so my dad was going through some medical things, and this is how I coped with it. I just took all his x-rays and his MRIs, and I made Van Dyke Browns out of it. This was toned. What did you, Van Dyke Browns were toned with selenium toner. Does that sound right to you? Selenium? I don't think selenium.
No, selenium's like usually like a very dark black blue. I don't think so.
Selenium.
I mean, I could have. I don't know. I didn't really do Van Dykes. I did a lot of sand.
Borax. Borax? Does that sound right to you? Borax?
Borax sounds right, and you can actually get borax is also safe. Like a lot of these techniques, not all of them. Like platinum printing is very bad, but like a lot of these techniques are safe. You can do them at home.
Yeah, yeah, no, these are great. And not to mention, like, you can do them in big scale. So if you mix a cyanotype, you can coat like a 3-foot size piece of paper and just lay it on a roof and make an exposure out of it. So I had a girlfriend years ago. We would take a bed sheet and soak it in cyanotype and then lay down on it for like an hour like this. And then we go to a laundromat and wash it. And that's how we would process it. And we used to have these portraits of ourselves together that were just silhouettes of our bodies, like on a bed sheet. Yeah,
that's actually a good idea. I like that.
I don't know where those are actually anymore. Oh, wait a second. I have one of my bike. I have an actual full-size photogram of my bike somewhere. Oh, geez. That's got to be somewhere. I don't even know anymore. Oh,
yeah, you can make digital negatives with transparencies. That's another way to do it.
Oh, I got one more to show you. Can I keep pulling stuff off? Because I want to show this one. Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead. It's just like your channel now.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, man.
This is Seth's channel, by the way. If you guys watch Seth's channel, it's literally him pulling shit off his wall.
So this is actually, every time I got tattooed when I was younger, I would take photos, right? So I took these photos and I used ortholithofilm to cut up the photo into 4 quadrants so that I can make a giant negative of myself getting tattooed. And then I pieced it together to create that. So this was forever and a day ago. This was probably back in 2005, 2004, maybe. And it was a lot of fun. So you want to talk about not having face detection or whatever? I had to figure out where the focus point was based on my distance of my lens to my freaking face. And that's what we did. So this is a cyanotype.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah,
so
that's something to try. Maybe that's because I know Patty was asking for another challenge. Let me look up. I think 1 or 2 of the techniques like that, the you can actually mix with like stuff you can get around the house. Like the cyanotype, you have to order. That most people won't have that stuff around the house, but some of them you can literally just make yourself. They're not that hard. Like I know you can actually develop film in coffee. I may end up doing that because I do have some film here, but I'm just not sure how I'm going to expose it.
You can do tea also. Tea does some stuff because it's, and also you can develop in beer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you need something acidic. I mean, you need something that can eat away the silver on you know, so. Oof. Yeah, if you guys want to see more of these techniques, join my Twitch channel. I'll grab more stuff off the wall when it's my channel.
I don't have an auto spammer like you have on your Twitch channel to get people to join stuff.
Oh, screw you. Don't be jelly. Don't be jelly.
I haven't got that high-tech skill.
Come on, look at these holes on my wall now because of you. So that one that's really high up that I'm never going to get down ever again is actually my mother's knee x-rays from when she had surgery. So I was, this is just how I coped with things. I made a filtered version of what I was looking at or dealing with at the time, you know? So like my father's surgery scars are right there. I shot him on that was one of the first times I ever shot large format, was right there. So.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it does. I'm not the kind of person that keeps that stuff. Like I don't have any of my work. I'm looking around if there's a picture that I shot hanging on the wall.
Well, no, I have this on my wall purely because I don't have storage space. So I figured the walls isn't storage space and I just maxed out my walls. And then it also gives people a sense of what the hell I'm about if it's a background when I'm doing this kind of shit. So stuff.
He would work then. Yeah, probably. You probably could develop in urine. If you look, actually the hardest thing is the fixer. Like developing is actually the simplest part. I mean, to just get an image, the fixer is actually the part that needs to be more perfect.
Well, it's also the reason. So the more rudimentary the acids are in the developer, the less tonal range you're going to have in the negative.
Right.
So just be aware of that.
Yeah. but that's really it. Because once you get it, developing it is not hard because it's just like I said, it's a process to eat away at it.
But it's also
Um,
the time. You have to figure out the
yeah,
timing of it. That's the hardest
yeah,
part.
yeah.
I'm sure somebody has a table out there somewhere that can tell
Well, there
you.
is. If you Google caffeinol, you'll see exactly how to do it with coffee because I've done it before. It's actually
Oh,
pretty like a pretty common thing. It makes a really see. I don't have anything to show. Now I have to have things to show. It makes a very kind of the negative itself looks kind of brown. So when you print it, it has this kind of like soft contrast to it. It's actually pretty cool.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like there's no tonal. It's just
Yeah.
it's weird. It's very strange.
Vitamin C powder with instant coffee is caffeinol. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you need the extra. So that's
Somebody
why
I
I
know
ordered.
did it with lemon juice.
Yep, that
So
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of balancing it. It's like you said, knowing the right amount and then how long it's going to take. Because, even if your developer is very weak, you can just have a very long development process. Of course, that changes the tonal range of the faster you develop. I'm trying to remember. Well, I'm not a black and white expert by far, but if you use hot water and you develop fast, you get super contrasting negatives. If you go slower with cooler water, you get more detail or
yeah,
more
the
flat.
problem with the hot water is that it makes the gelatin that much more fragile, and thus the breakaway is easier. And sometimes you'll get a different contrast range just based on how much you agitate it during hot water processes.
Right, exactly. Agitation, because it just like when you put ice into a glass of room temperature water and you stir it, the water gets colder faster. That's just basic science. It's actually really funny that I think, well, maybe less now because people don't do as much darkroom stuff, but how much like science there is in photography when you start really looking at that part of
Well,
it.
the first photographers were just chemists. They weren't artists. They weren't creatives. They were actually trying to document things for referential purposes, and they created this.
Yeah,
Did you lose?
no, I agree.
Oh, okay. It's weird when I don't hear anything because I'm like, wait,
Yeah, your audio cut out for like half a second. Probably,
uh,
I think you peaked because you were getting so excited. So excited.
dude, I've been going through these Go wireless labs like crazy. I have like a pair that's always recharging while I'm doing the pair that's like burning away. I'm waiting for the
Yeah,
battery to just be like, all right, I've had enough, dude. These are garbage now.
yeah. I think I'm going to switch over to well, I have a package. I was telling Seth, I think before we started that. And I am by no means any kind of a scientist and I know nothing. So don't follow anything from what I say, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. So I had watched a video that seemed pretty legit where they said that 3 days is like the the more or less after 3 days, the virus will probably be dead on anything. So what I'm doing is any box that comes in my house, it sits in my garage for 3 days before I open it. So there is actually a box from Adorama that has a power cord for my Zoom recorder. So once that's in the house, I'm gonna try to set up a more permanent mic because I hate
So I
using the
got a
labs.
package from Adorama, and it wasn't in a box and it wasn't in an envelope. It was in something I've never seen before. It was a sheet of this foam, and they clearly fold it over and then they heat it and it shrinks down to it and it's still padded. So I tried to open it. I kept on, I'm ripping it. I'm ripping it. I'm ripping it. I can't get to the product because it's the whole thing is suction
Yeah,
to itself. I was
yeah,
like,
it's like
God
that.
damn.
It's like those food storage bags that go like. Yeah, Adorama was shipping, but I believe they're in Passover now. So
Yeah, I don't think they're shipping because of they're closed for holiday. That's why there's no live videos right now or anything really.
uh, yeah, Google Massive Development Chart. Exactly. If you go to I think it's called digitaltruth.com or
Oh,
just go
yeah, Digital Truth is amazing.
yeah. It has nothing to do with digital. It's all analog, but it's called Digital Truth.
Yeah, but that told you if you pushed
Yeah.
film, pulled film, if it was in like if your developer was a certain degree, how long the actual amount of film. Because do you remember back in the day? I don't know if you remember the 100-foot rolls that you would bulk load.
Yep.
So Nikon made a back for a camera that took 100-foot roll of film. You couldn't get your face to the camera; it was so big.
Yeah.
And I had to find out the processing time for 100 feet of film.
Well, you know what that was for? School photography and
Oh,
stuff like that. Yeah,
makes
because you
sense.
just set it up, preset your focus, deep, depth of field, and just bang it out. That's what it does.
We did it for time lapse. We tried to shoot
Oh,
every
that's cool.
second and then run it as a 35 millimeter projection.
Oh, that's kind of cool, except it'd be sideways.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was for. Because I actually knew a guy that he didn't use it anymore. He was a wedding photographer. I met him when I was very first starting, and I assisted for him. But he had one. He had that 100-foot thing on his Nikon, and when he used to do school photography, so that's what everybody used, because you wouldn't waste medium format film on those pictures. That's what he used to say. You would use 35 for that. Oh, that
One
was
of those
hilarious.
rat kids aren't worth Man, my wall looks ridiculous now. Look at this Swiss cheese I got going on here.
Well, it's just funny because like you think like actually this is actually a good example of, because we always talk about like the new things changing, whatever. So this guy was like in his late 60s. I was just out of college, and he was still of the thought, like he's like, you can't use 35 millimeter for anything legit. And like within like 7 or 8 years of me going like being more like in the profession of being a photographer, like everything I shot, unless it was like a major, like I knew it was going to be something printed large, was 35 millimeter, because the film just got better. You know, you shot medium format for like catalogs and stuff, but like anything in a magazine was 35. We didn't shoot.
Do you remember the mass exodus of every wedding photographer getting rid of their medium format gear? And that's when we got it like super cheap. Like I have Hasselblad lenses I never thought I'd own, because they were like, well, I'm not using this anymore.
Yeah, all the wedding guys are switching to 35. So if you order Vanessa's book and then you come once everything's opened back up again to Adorama, when she's there, she'll sign it. See, I'm committing her to that. Which is not here.
She actually has it. She had a signing scheduled. We just got into this mess. So
yeah, and she had some at WPPI. She was I don't know if you were signing them.
She had the first 100 off the press were there.
That's so cool.
Yeah. You got to do a book. Yo, everyone in the chat, I've been telling Daniel he needs to make a book that's like Daniel is in your kit. Like he has a handbook of himself in your kit. So it's not about how to do specific things, but the core idea of them, so that you go like, oh, I'm dealing with a harsh sun. And then you pull it up and Daniel's like, I'm telling you, do the book. Do the book.
Hold on, though. It has to be illustrated with me making like expressions like that. Like, so you have to take the pictures.
It's the puppet. It's going to be the puppet.
Hang the owl up while there's space. I guess he's talking to you. You don't miss film at all? Oh, see, I love film. I have a very like romantic relationship with film. It just puts me like in a different mindset.
It's a very nice, slow zen, and you know it's for you. And it's just, and you also have a relationship. This sounds really fucking weird, but the film has its own personality and characteristics. So when you're working with film, you're put into this box of whatever that film is going to do for you, not a digital sensor that can be color, black and white, whatever ISO. So you really are working as a relationship with the film you chose to work with and the paper stock you're working with. It's, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it is. And every camera has a very unique, this is my one thing that I don't love about the digital age, is that in a sense, we take our camera, let's say you have like a Nikon D850, although we just talked about different cameras good for different things. But in general, if you have something like a D850, you can do pretty much everything with that. When I was shooting film professionally, like I had different cameras for different things. Like they just felt different to use. They were good at different things. Now good cameras are good at like everything. So I kind of miss that, like having different cameras, you know.
Well, so, you remember when you used to see guys with like a Nikon F5 that was $8,000, and it would be like 3 of them, because it was like one was black and white, one was color, and one was like a high-speed film. So you were kind of like, oh my God, like what is this guy doing with like $20,000 in just cameras?
Yeah, and like I remember like shooting, and it's so funny because like I would be shooting in my studio with like you know, I was shooting with me a 645 at the time, and I'd be shooting with the 645, and I'd have like an 8x10 on a tripod like ready, and I'd be shooting, and like they'd be a great shot, and I would just like look at my assistant at the time, who's an awesome photographer, Mark. I'd be like, Mark, and he would like literally bring it up, and he'd be like setting it up next to me while I'm working with the model and getting everything ready. And then I would be like, we just slide it over an inch. I'd get behind it, make sure it was good the way I wanted it, take the shot, jump back down, and continue shooting. Because it was like, there was that special shot. Like I found that moment where I wanted 8x10, because the 8x10 was a different vibe.
It's, first of all, 8x10 is contact printing. You're laying down a negative onto paper. You want to know what the sharpest thing you've ever seen? It's insane. Actually, no, that's a lie. The sharpest thing you'll ever see is a chrome out of a large format camera. It's just ridiculous. Hey, what's the largest format you've ever shot?
We did 11x14 in college, but it was landscape. As a portrait, 8x10.
So I did 11x14 in the studio, and I didn't get to shoot it, but I loaded a 16x20 camera for somebody else in landscape.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it wasn't cool being the guy that had to carry it. So I don't know. 16x20, dude, the back was this.
Did you like assemble it on location? I mean, did you carry the whole camera?
No, I carried it on. I carried the backs, like the you know, the bellows are by themselves.
Yeah.
The lens was in a protective gun case. It wasn't even a case for the lens. It came in a gun case. And then I remember the bellows. It was so expensive that we always had to put a flashlight through them while we were on location and see where it was leaking and then gaff tape them. So if you look at this guy's bellows, they were like half tape.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you do it. I love large format, you know. But again, I think that's because now I'm looking at it because I use it only for personal projects. For commercial purposes, once I converted over and digital became acceptable to me, like Capture One and stuff like that, I'm happy to shoot commercially digitally. I would not go back.
Oh no,
Daniel needs to do a book showing all of Seth's tricks. No, Vanessa just did that.
yeah,
Oh, burn.
I just fuel everybody else's careers. I don't have a good career myself, so let them enjoy the
I
legacies.
mean, the reality is that everybody takes stuff from everybody else. It's like the thing we were saying, we were telling the story with Joe about that technique, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got that from blah blah blah." It's like we're stealing Joe's technique, but he stole it from somebody else. It's like
Nobody owns anything, but people try to make it seem like they're the originator or the career. They use it so much that they own the personality of it. Remember when people used to own a high-speed sync? It's like, fuck you. It's a switch on your goddamn light. Like calm down. Like calm
exactly.
down.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I mean, that's really it. Everything is, I mean, there's only so much you do. The rest of it's just finesse. So any technique that you learn is really just using it. Like I remember, I think I've told the story a bunch of times where I like got into this idea of shooting, which is actually popular again, the really super saturated skies by strobing outside. And I went and did like a whole bunch of shots like that when I was an assistant. And I showed a photographer I worked for, who was a fashion photographer, and I showed him the stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I was doing that in the '70s." And I'm like, I thought I invented something. I was like, no, this is how we're doing this. He's like, yeah, you just used a flash outside. Like, that was
When
like,
when I first started, I built a darkroom in my parents' basement out of stuff I found in a garbage, and I thought I invented dodging and burning. It's just what happens. You think these things are, whoa, look what I did. That like you have to get out of your head and realize this has been around for a century of photography, a century or more actually, and people have tried everything to be different or expand or evolve. And sometimes you just have to realize it's not about the technique you pulled off, but how consistent you are and how you apply all these techniques. Because when you're making deliberate decisions and they're giving you a successful image, that's what makes you great.
yeah, right. Being able to put together those pieces, like understanding it and knowing which pieces work well in certain situations is the key to being consistent. That's really it. And the techniques, whatever, they are what they are. Something become trendy, and I certainly look at things and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I would do that. But it's not like not like I couldn't have figured it out. I mean,
but there's plenty of times clients come to you with someone else's shots and they go, can you do something similar to this? And it's like, you should be able to spot what they did because nothing's new. You're kind of like, oh, they did blah, blah. Oh, it's a magnum reflector or whatever,
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you don't own it. That's that. So people need to get over that because I'm sure somebody
we
else
need to do that camera obscura shoot in the studio when we get back there.
Oh, maybe I'll do a camera obscura. Maybe I'll build a pinhole camera because I have film. I don't have a camera for it. That's what I was saying the other day. I have I have medium format film back at the house, but I don't have a camera to shoot it. But I have large format film. Or the opposite. I have to look at I have the film for the camera that's in the studio, but the camera for the film that I have at the house in the studio.
Well, I think what we can do is buy a roll of RC paper, and then hang it on the wall, get it as flat as we can, like maybe build a frame that we screw down, and then make the room the camera, like we were talking about, and have someone stand in the studio and we do the projector through a peephole kind of thing. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that I found the BMX photos I shot using a peephole ripped out of a door welded to a lens? Did I show you that?
Yeah, I've seen that, but I don't know if anybody else has ever seen it. If you haven't to show, you can show it for sure. It's funny.
I'll save it for my channel.
It is a very cool thing, and actually, and this is just funny because it ties in directly what we were saying. When I was in college, there was somebody who did exactly that. That's literally what they did. They actually shot through a peephole from a door. As they took it off and they made it as part of their camera and did like a whole series of photos. And so it's just so funny. It's like two different creatives that never knew each other in two different places did the same thing. Wow. I mean, it's like, that's so interesting, right?
Dude, there's a guy who made a pinhole camera out of his mouth. So he would hold two strobes go like this and go. And so every photo he has a silhouette of his teeth as the border, and he would spit it out into a dark bag and process it. I mean, this stuff happens. It exists,
Yeah, it's so cool. I haven't seen him in the past few years, but when I first moved to New York, there was this guy that around the winter holiday time like that. You know, in Union Square they do that November thing like right before Christmas. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
he
The
would
holiday
always have
fair.
art out there, and he did always had pinhole stuff. But he had all these different cameras and them up to show you. Like he would have like a film canister pinhole, he had like an Altoids box, and he had all these different pinholes. And I used to buy stuff for him and then give him as gifts and stuff because they were really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there were guys that used to take pinhole cameras and everyday objects and hide them in the city to do long exposures of streets. And it was brilliant. I made a pinhole camera out of the pegs on my bike. So when I flipped it upside down, it was stable and I would open up the pegs and then close them. And I think like maybe twice I got an image, like they were complete garbage. But you have to have that spirit. You have to keep going and trying. What did you really cost you? $10 in like photo paper or something? Like just go shoot, you know?
No, it's true. It's super fun. And the very first pinhole camera I made, I remember we made them in college because I didn't do it in high school, and I forgot to get my box. So like they told everybody, they're like, oh yeah, you know, gonna make pinhole cameras, get a Quaker Oats box. That's the classic. And like everybody had Quaker Oats boxes. They walk in and I didn't have anything. I went in the garbage and I got this like huge box. So my first pinhole camera was gigantic, and I was shooting like big sheets of paper where everybody else was shooting like little
Yeah.
negatives. I was okay, I'll just shoot. We're using ortho litho film as negative.
Lithofilm was the coolest thing ever. Aside from Cibachrome, it was the coolest shit ever.
Yeah, and so that was what I would use as negatives, and then we could print, and then we were printing on like cyanotypes and stuff. But it was cool because what I realized was, without even thinking, like everybody using the Quaker Oats box essentially was making a wide angle lens because like the inside of the box curves, you know, so it's like creating a wide angle lens. But because my box was so long, I actually had like a telephoto. So like it was like so interesting. I had like a telephoto pinhole, and it really was like, wow, that's, you know, you didn't think about it until you did it, and it's like, oh, that actually makes sense because
Yeah.
the image, you know.
Also, you know what? I don't know if you like. I really liked seeing the circle, like that confusion, the
Yeah.
circle of confusion. Like when you first saw that in your early days, you're like, oh man, this is what it really is, and the edge of the circle and where it falls off, and like that was eye-opening to me. And then you realize what a camera is really doing, and then you're really just going in a whole nother world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, when you get to the point people are peeing on their film. Well, there's this a movie, and I forget how they did it because it's based on a true thing, actually.
Oh shit, Dan, I gotta.
Where go ahead.
Someone's at my door. Can I just give me like a few
Yeah,
minutes?
go for it.
Sorry, buddy.
And they're trying to make a passport photo, like a fake passport photo, or something to get somebody out of the country. So that's exactly what they're doing. They're using all different things to develop film, and they may have tried pee in it. It was actually based on a true story. Let's see. Yes, Mark Wallace has done everything. By the way, somebody asked in the very beginning, and I didn't say. As far as I know, I mean, last I talked to Mark, which was yesterday, he's doing fine. He's just he's basically in a hotel room in Argentina. Um, so he is doing okay, and he's really working it. I mean, Mark got like this. He's like sent me some pictures. He's got this little like studio set up, like with like a little light on him and the whole thing. I mean, he's, you know, yeah, wow. So Mark, yes, awesome. Let's see. Now it's going to go slow again because I'm here by myself. Yes, negatives for me, hard to maintain. Yeah, you know, I don't scan. I mean, I'm not a person that as you, because you didn't notice, I don't really, I don't want to say dwell because that sounds negative, but I don't dwell on like old work. I think that's because I was always, you know, what the field I worked in was fashion. So it was always like your old stuff was your old stuff. Like you didn't care about that. So like, I don't really have a super attachment to old stuff. But then when I see it, I'm always like, oh, I kind of, so like negatives and stuff, they're all piled away somewhere. Yeah. Oh my God, I have gear everywhere. You can't even. It's actually very funny. I was afraid to start shooting stuff because I was like, oh, it's gonna be a mess. And I'm a bit of a you probably don't know this, but I'm like, well, you might notice it compared to like when Seth does his demos and everything's a mess, and mine's always like I don't like things out of place. So like I have like two sets going on in the other room plus this, and I'm like looking at it, and it's just like giving me nerves looking at it. Like I don't like seeing equipment everywhere. Oh wow, the first police tour. Oh yeah, that does suck. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess everything is yeah, Cybercrime I never printed. I always just had them made. Yeah, they were just beautiful. Man-sized camera. Yeah. Oh my God, Dylan and the band. Yeah, now you're killing me. Urine was used to cure leather. That makes sense. This is about peeing, developing the ultimate. I hate film. Rent's probably due again. It's not the punch. Yeah. Now we got to see somebody get on Google and see if you can develop film with urine. We need to see that. Yeah, I've seen that too. The using a scanner as a camera. That's super interesting to me. And I was going to do it with my old scanner, and I just never got around to it. I might actually be able to Google that again. Yeah, Mark is doing it Argentinian style, exactly. Yeah, you know, I think there's like just a certain process, and I get it is funny because I say I don't like to sit in front of the computer, um, you know, all day like doing stuff in Photoshop, but I don't mind like sitting like in a dark room or something like that, like doing that stuff. So it's I guess it's a different process. There's something very interesting about just being in it and having your hands in it. That not the hopefully not urine. That gets you know gets a different feel from everything. The other thing too that in my like personal work, like I like I'm not like an over the top crazy uh film person in the sense that like some film people are like film is better than digital and you gotta do like I usually shoot my film really rough, so it's not like super good, and that's why I do it. I keep it super raw. I leave dust on it, like it's just part of the film aesthetic for me. So it kind of depends on what you shoot. Play another tune? No, I don't think so. That's the only one I know. You literally got the only song that I know how to play. That's it. Yeah. So any other questions? Oh, here's Seth's back. We're trying to see if you can actually develop film with urine. No, I don't hear him yet. Oh, he doesn't know we're
Jesus
talking about.
Christ.
All right. Did you pay your rent and everything? Okay?
Oh yeah, that was a great one during Joe's interview. No,
Oh my
so I got packages, but now my bell isn't working, so I don't know if there's a guy ever ringing my thing downstairs to give me my package. So my
Oh.
neighbor was like, "Is it? There's a whole whatever. It is what it is."
Oh, it's from the front door. Oh, that's a pain.
I'm just so sick of. Ugh. I need to make more money so I can move to a better neighborhood.
Yeah. So send you know PayPal to Seth. Actually, somebody asked me to show my photo book collection because Joe has it, but I realized that made me realize I don't have any photo books.
Really? I have a bunch of his stuff. I keep
I don't
showing
think I
my
can.
photo books.
I have Joe's book. Well, I don't have the original Faces of Ground Zero, but I have the second book, where there was like a
Oh,
10 years later book. I might have two of those
so
because
I
he.
lost all my Avedon books.
Yeah, I gave all my books away to assistants like a long time ago. I have just a very few books. At some point, I'll bust them out. So yeah, now I'm copying Joe, but I'll show you the books I have.
Yeah, I gave away my Richard Avedon books because someone who I don't like anymore gave them to me as a gift, and every time I saw them, I was like, ah, and I just couldn't deal with them anymore, so I just gave them away.
Avedon is great. Welcome to the Greek who's joining us, right? Somebody from Greece is a Greek, right? That's not offensive.
My father is from Saloniki, Greece.
There you go. So welcome, Peter. You learned of dodging and burning the darkroom. Yeah, that's really what it came from, right? The thing about darkroom work, if you're really good at it, is a lot. You have to take into account every bit of the process, and I think this is also true about doing doing stuff in Photoshop. So, like, if you want to make a good print in, you know, starting from using film, you have to think about the exposure in the beginning, what kind of film you use, how you're thinking about making that exposure. You have to look at it and be like, this is the limitations of my film. This is how I'm going to expose. I might use these filters, whatever. Then you go in the dark room and then you do the tweaking to bring out that potential. So that's the same thing if you shoot digital. And I think when we criticize, because we do this a lot, so I was trying to explain it, people that fix things in post or add filters or presets, it's because they're not thinking about it when they're shooting it.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it when you're shooting it, that's a whole different ball game. You know, it's like, I know what I can do in Photoshop. I have a plan. I know what my camera's capable of, so I'm going to do this. And that's a whole different world.
There's also the idea that the film has its own personality, like its grain structure, its tonality. Like Riala had amazing skin tones, but Velvia was like nuclear skin. Like, you know, there's just things you knew about the film you were working with, and you were having a conversation with that film while you were shooting. That was kind of what it was. I mean, I don't know. The preset thing kills me though.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, I think like the idea what you were saying earlier about having two cameras, like one black and white, one color, like you were about to make the shot and you had to think to yourself, is this a black and white shot or is this a color shot? And you really shot differently or exposed differently or planned differently depending on what film was in the camera. And I think on that level, it makes you think more, you know, when you have to do that. And I think that allows for more thoughtful photography, or it makes you have to think. Not that people don't necessarily think now.
We need a force field around the sensor to keep dust off. So it's funny. Canon actually throws their shutter down. Leica was the first ones to throw their shutter down on mirrorless cameras when you remove the lens. Now Sony has a firmware update coming that closes their shutter. So Nikon's got to get with it. But if you damage the sensor, like if you get dust on the sensor, as soon as that thing goes up, you have dust on the sensor, the shutter. I'm sorry, dust on the shutter when you open up your lens. As soon as you put that lens on and you open up the shutter, the dust hits your sensor anyway. So
yeah, I mean, some cameras are better at keeping the dust off the sensor than others. That's for sure. But the real trick is just to make sure you don't turn the camera on or off. Don't have the camera turned on when you remove your lens. If you do that and keep the and don't hold the thing upside down, I mean, I'm pretty bad with my cameras. People see me
hold
doing
your camera
videos,
like this.
Yeah, and just don't have it on, and that's pretty good unless you're in a super dusty environment.
Just hold your camera like this. So when you take the lens off, it's not, the sensor isn't facing up to suck in all the dirt. And also blow the dust out from around here before you do anything. Like people never do that. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm terrible. I am the worst person at keeping my sensor clean. So, and I got spoiled actually by Canon. Canon has amazing shaky, whatever they call it, process. Like that one DX I have, I've never ever cleaned the sensor. There's not a tiny bit of dust on it.
Same thing with my Nikon, the D850. Like
yeah, some cameras are just better than others.
It's also about how much it magnetizes, not magnetizes, but talking about when it has electricity running through the sensor, it basically causes a static cling.
Yep.
Patty works in a dusty, hairy environment because she shoots pets. I told Patty she should make a calendar.
Yeah, you should have a calendar for charity or something, or for profit. I mean, who cares? So what I would say about that is this. I lived in Miami for a long time. You can tell by the tan. And when we went out, we did not take lenses off our cameras on the beach. You just didn't do it. Like you went out there with the plan that you were going to shoot with the lens you were going to shoot with. We weren't switching lenses 20 times. That's one reason to have multiple bodies. Like you literally have two bodies, so you don't have to take the lenses off. And that will also help a lot.
So William's saying that film cameras lasted longer. I think with what digital camera can you work more than 20 years? So there's cameras that are 10, 12 years that are totally still viable today. But you also have to remember that back in the day, film wasn't that good. It took a while for the film to evolve to be really good in 35 millimeter. Daniel was just talking about that versus medium format. So right now we have the sensors that are actually really beautiful. The 45 megapixel sensors, the 24 megapixel sensors, like they're there. Yes, the 4, the 5, the 8 megapixel cameras back in the day, no. But these are the sensors that are holding out. I don't think people are really looking to trade their cameras up as much as they used to. Every year people were buying cameras. Now they're not kind of doing that. They're holding their ground. It's like the iPhone. People don't need the newest model anymore because what they have is basically holding still. They're trying to find features to sell you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to consider that those cameras that you're saying 20 years from now, they're like 100 years into the history of photography. So like, yeah, they still work. I mean, that's one reason why. So it is true that you didn't have to buy cameras as often. People still did. So believe me, when the Nikon, the new Nikon came out, the F5, I guess, whatever it was, when that thing came out, people were dropping cameras left and right. I mean, and when the F4 came out, of course, the F4 was the first autofocus. So that got a lot of people over.
Yeah, but I think people don't realize that while we're in an era where there's almost every year camera companies drop the new model, back then it was like 3 to 5 years before you saw a new model drop. It took a long time,
Yeah, well, consumer cameras came out faster, just like they do now, but you're right. It was a couple of years anyways. Yeah, I do think it also, see, part of having fewer shots, like if you have to shoot a roll of film, is that idea that like, well, yeah, because we have to think more because we don't want to spend more money. But that also in a way slows down the learning process. I think learning on digital is great as long as you take the time to actually learn, because you can shoot as much as you want. Like if I'm just sitting here and I'm like, man, I wonder what the light on this would translate to on my sensor. I can literally just shoot it. With film, I'd be like, oh, do I really want to just shoot this corner of my computer for no reason? So you really have to think about it. So that's the beauty of digital, is you can just try stuff, which I think is amazing.
The key to digital for new photographers is to look at what you shot, determine what you want to change, why you want to change it, and how you want to change it. So not that you're taking random shots in different settings and going, one of these will be right. No, you have to be like, oh no, that highlight's blown. How do I fix that? Oh, this isn't sharp enough. How do I fix that? This is the way you grow. It's not just by, let me get lucky somehow by changing 1,000 settings and 1,000 shots,
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's one reason why I do not like auto ISO as a general principle. Because I feel like that makes people forget that that's important. I think ISO is super important. So I almost never use that. People ask me that a lot. That's why I'm answering. I don't usually answer, but I never use auto ISO ever. And because I just said that. So in 3 years, you're going to see me being like, auto ISO is the way to go. Because I always change my mind.
So I use it.
Yeah, you do? For what?
Yeah. So let's say I picked my aperture that I want the depth of field, right? And I have my shutter speed set for how much I want to hand hold it or something like that. If I'm in an ever-changing environment, I set the auto ISO to only go up to like 1600 to 3200, and I let it do what it's going to do to fluctuate the ISO while I stay at the character settings of the shutter and the aperture. And that's only in places where I know the light's constantly changing and I can't figure out, like, or I need to shoot fast. You know what I mean? So that's where, as long as it doesn't go up too high to where it's like golf ball grain or whatever, or noise or whatever, I let it do its thing. Like on,
Yeah,
on my Fuji.
I get the reason for it. I just don't like it as a general practice because I noticed, I think I probably got that opinion because I noticed that a lot of people just leave it on. And I think that can impede the learning process because you're just not thinking about ISO.
Oh, no, yeah. 100%.
I mean,
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But that's the reason why I'm generally against it. Just like anything, it's fine for something. So black frame, there's a question about the black frame. Do we need to shoot a frame to see if there's dust on the sensor? That would be the white frame.
White frame.
Yeah, if you want to know if you've got dust on your sensor, you need to close down the lens all the way and shoot something white and overexpose it, and you'll basically you'll see the dust.
Just shoot the sky at f/22, and
yeah, it has to be something bright. It has to be bright and something that doesn't have detail in it. That's why I said something white because clouds and stuff could impede. D200.
Also, if you guys are members of any sort of servicing like CPS, NPS, or any kind of camera companies servicing, you get free cleanings if you send it in. So think about it,
Inside noses of Nikon canceling the D6. I don't know anything about that. They don't tell me anything. Now, is this saying, do we know anything about Nikon canceling the D6 for a full frame Pro ZZ body?
So Nikon is not canceling anything. But they'll never tell you what's coming. They're very tight on that stuff. I mean, it's insane. So, but I will say that the D6, Joe just shot with it. So it's not being canceled.
Yeah, I didn't even know
Oh, you weren't on that thing? Oh yeah, he was like, it's a beast. Oh my God. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and Joe's a good example of somebody that uses different cameras for different stuff. Because I remember he had the D5 and the D500 when we were working on one of the shoots, and he literally switched cameras for something. He switched to the D500 for a reason. He was like, "Oh, I like this better for this." It's like, yeah, but you have the $8,000 camera there. He's like, no, for this thing, I like this camera, and it's like, so different characteristics,
So the idea behind the D500 was crop sensor camera that had like the engine of a D5. So it was like fast output, fast focusing, fast frames per second, and all your lenses became more zoomed in because there was a crop sensor. So some guys liked it for wildlife or stuff that was far out there. Sport photographers like the crop sensor, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Actually, I used the D500 when it first came out a bunch because it had the wireless went into it better than any other camera. It was like that new wireless system was made for it. So actually, it was actually the first camera that was made, like the D5 could use it, but it was like an accessory, like the D500 had it built in.
It was the WR something that was like radio triggering the speed lights.
Just plugged in, so you didn't have to put anything on. So you could actually not have the anything on your hot shoe. You could use it for something else, if you wanted to. Film back from the lab, I usually couldn't remember exactly what I had done. Well, that's why you got to have a notebook. You got to have little moleskin notebooks. What we used to do anyways is we'd always shoot. I mean, if I was just walking around the street, I wouldn't do this because hopefully by then I kind of think I understood photography enough that I didn't need to I wasn't learning. But we would always shoot Polaroids on anything that was like a portrait or whatever. And on the Polaroid, I would write my settings.
So what's funny is the F6, the Nikon F6, imprints your settings in between all your negatives. So shots that are up on my wall show my settings like a 60th of a second at 5.6. And that's when I did my contact sheets, I knew exactly what was going on. Not to mention, if you filed out the negative carrier, made those crazy edges, and you saw the sprocket holes and everything, you saw your settings. It was actually, I have it right there. I should pull it off the wall. I'm not doing it. I pulled enough shit off my walls.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, you just keep track of it. And I actually think they're a great way to work, because the other thing about writing it down, because I think that's good. And actually, there was data backs, you know how you like to talk, that you could get for cameras that would imprint that stuff. Like you used to be able to get that on film cameras. But the issue with that, in my mind, is that if you take the time to write it down, you also write down something like, shot this on a bright sunny day, blah blah blah, versus just here's my settings. Because your settings, okay, what does that even mean? You know. So so I kind of like that. And I also, like I said, put a Polaroid in there. I wish I had those books. I tossed them, which I probably shouldn't have. Let's see. Oh, somebody asked about Olympus cameras and Micro Four Third. I think Olympus makes great cameras. I'm not an Olympus shooter per se, but I have shot them, and you know, they're fine.
Olympus glass is nice.
Yeah, I mean, and they're pretty innovative. I will say this, and I always say this: they're like point and shoot cameras that they used to have, or they probably still have, like the
Epics.
Those things, and then their digital cameras that were more like sports cameras. I don't know, would you know, like we might use a GoPro for now, but not video, but for adventure cameras, whatever they call them. I mean, there's a category. They were the only ones ever, and I always shout out Olympus for this. They're the only company ever that I've ever done a video for that said you can beat the crap out of our gear. Every other company is always like, well, it's prototypes to make sure, blah blah blah. I mean, granted, you know, I understand they don't want you to break their gear in a video, but Olympus, I'd be like I froze one in a block of ice. We put them into extreme heat and water conditions. It's like, this says it can go 100 feet underwater. Can I put it 100 feet underwater and shoot with it? Yeah, go for it. Like, they were just, yes.
You lost one in a river. You lost.
Yes, we lost. Like, we literally, and in that video, we threw it down the side of the mountain and bounced down while it was filming. Like, they said we could do it, so we did. So I give Olympus full credit for that. Not to say other companies' cameras aren't tough, but like, they never had a problem with us doing anything. I froze one in a block of ice. That was like my crowning achievement. Oh, Olympus. Yes, I like you. I don't know why you'd ever, if basically, if it's so cold that your camera's frozen in a block of ice, you probably shouldn't be taking pictures. But
so
at the same time,
their idea was, if you somehow lost gear out there, it'll come back to you fine. So
yeah, like I lost it in the river. So someday. But yeah, I think Olympus is great for that. The Micro Four Thirds stuff I've messed with, but I haven't really.
So I'm not a fan of Micro Four Thirds as a format, and that's the only reason I kind of.
Yeah, I think that they're just small, but I think a lot of cameras are small now. So when they first came out, that was like the big pitch. They're small, and not just the camera, the lensing is small.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
If you want long lenses, you know, equivalents, and you want it to be small, Olympus is great. Like, and they're also, you know, pretty tough. So you go like on a safari and you're going to shoot with a 600mm lens. Well, that's only a 300mm, and their 300mm. Their 300mm is, you know, this big, instead of like, you know, a full frame camera's 300mm, which is huge, you know. So that was the reason why. Do not avoid questions. Just do not know your photography of the moon.
What?
Huh?
Where are you? I don't even know where you are in the chat.
I don't know. I was right by the. I'm definitely really far behind. Something about photographing the moon. I don't. You know, there is a way to photograph the moon. There's like a certain setting for it. Okay, so this is actually. Sorry, Joe gets offended because I'm going to give a Joe story that wasn't public until now. So I was with Joe once, and we were talking about doing photo critiques. And we were just talking about strange things that people do. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing. Every time there's like one of these like moon things, like people will show me a picture of the moon, and it will literally just be a frame filled with a picture of the moon. And I'm always like, oh yeah, that's nice. Because it's a friggin' picture of the moon. Like, who cares? Unless you're like an astronomer. He's like, you could make awesome pictures that have, like, if the moon is super big, like, and that's what you're trying to show, you can show that by showing foreground elements, by showing whatever. To just take a picture of the moon by itself, that doesn't show scale, it doesn't show anything. Like, what's the point? And so that's my thought about that. If you're shooting the moon or anything like that, try to get some context, get some trees in the shot.
That's why the people that shoot the eclipse, the only ones you pay attention to are the ones that find a way to not show just a freaking circle shot with a 300mm. I don't care. Like, so, and also do not avoid the question, like, this chat is a little hectic. Calm down. All right. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to find it again. I don't know what the question was, but if it was how to shoot the moon, then that's basically it. My recommendation about shooting the moon is get something in the foreground. I don't really shoot that kind of stuff, but you know, I've shot by moonlight, which is actually brighter than you would think when it's actually full. D20D still, yeah. I had a 20D. I burnt that thing into the ground. I used it. I broke it. I broke the shutter on it. Yeah. Manual mode with auto ISO. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It just feels weird for me. I don't know. Auto ISO. Yeah, you guys are loving it. And I see people using it. And I think that's the thing. Like I don't. I think it's just one of those things where you're not thinking. I guess if you can set the range, maybe that's good. But
Yeah,
for me, it's
that's what I
like
do.
that's such an important part of what I do. Like I would never let the ISO be. Like I care less about shutter speed than anything else.
Well, the only time I'm doing auto ISO is in ever-changing environments. If I can fit, if I, you know, why not? Just let it do what it's going to do. If, as long as it doesn't go past the barrier where it's degrading my image, you know. But in the studio, absolutely, I don't put auto ISO on. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's my again, that's me saying now, so that like in a few years you'll have a video of me saying it. Like when I said that people would never use inkjet prints for anything, you know. And I mean, they're so good now. They're like amazing. Were you
No,
with
no,
us one of the
LEDs, LEDs. How many years did you go on going LEDs are garbage? LEDs. Now it's like the last 7 videos you've done are LEDs.
That's well, no, I still stick to what I said there. Cheap LEDs are garbage, and there's still plenty of cheap LEDs out there. Because I just know when you come up to me and you go, hey, what do you think about LEDs? You mean that $35 one that's hanging on the wall. You don't mean the $2,500 data light. So there's a big difference.
And there's also, so someone tried to get Joe on this, like, so Joe, is it time to ditch the speed lights and go LEDs? And he's like, well, no, I still get control out of using strobe. Are you crazy? Like, you constant light mixed with more constant light doesn't make for more control.
Right, exactly. You need a hell of a lot of light to do it. Do you think the only real reason for continuous upgrades of cameras is for the advancements in autofocus? No, I think there's lots of reasons. They get better color over time. Sensor development is lower noise.
Power management alone. I mean, to have a battery that can actually last you longer than 45 minutes on a full frame digital camera is a godsend these days. Are you kidding me? So there's a lot of durability, processor speeds, right? The ability to do both photo and video and get it out of the camera. I mean, the processor is what the new game is. Whoever can make a processor that can handle the amount of data coming off these monster sensors now is going to go forward.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really the reason to upgrade. I wouldn't upgrade for autofocus speed, but that's not a big thing for me. I mostly shoot portraits. I've never had a problem. I've owned cameras that every reviewer that's out there screaming at cameras says that they have shitty autofocus. I have never had a problem.
I mean, and I care more about accuracy than speed of autofocus. And that's just because of what I shoot. I'm not shooting like basketball players or whatever, but still, I'd rather, if you can focus fast, but not on the thing I'm trying to get. What do I give a fuck how fast it gets there? It's the wrong focus point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that like too, the example you're giving with sports, I don't even think it matters that much for sports. If they're that far away from you, then the range that the autofocus has to move is not that much. It's actually harder to focus fast on something that's super close to you. So
or coming at you.
Or coming at you, yeah. I mean, if you're shooting macro, then it would matter, I guess. Or maybe it matters. I mean, Robbie could tell us he shoots wildlife. I don't. Maybe that matters. And
so
Mike.
I think you guys fall into a trap of what they're trying to sell you. So like you want sharper photos, you need better autofocus. They don't tell you that maybe you need to learn a little bit, few things to make your images sharper, which Vanessa just did a video on, by the way. I think that the idea of you need eye autofocus, you need the fastest ever. How about if you have a camera that's doing 22 frames per second, you're just shooting video anyway. So maybe you need autofocus in video more than you need, like that's, and you're also trashing like 90% of the images you're taking now because you don't need the subtle differences in 20 different shots at once. So I think they try to sell you the idea of autofocus because that's the one feature that people think they need to make better images faster.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Patty, exactly. You might shoot the moon by itself to like composite in later. But yeah, I don't see whoever originally said that. I didn't see who it was, so I'm not sure if I got into that question or not. But I don't see an image. Yeah, you remember the? Oh, yeah, it did. It imprint. Oh, that's right. The data backs actually put it on the actual shot, so maybe that isn't ideal. I never had that, so am I isolating myself? Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
Where are the photos of masked customers? I don't know what you mean by customers. I'm not working with people right now, so I don't know.
Wait, what?
Also, I don't think that like that's an interesting subject. I think yeah, like let the photojournalists shoot what's going on. That's not something for me. So I'm not going to photograph people with masks on.
Also, people that are real pro photojournalists understand how to be in situations like this. They know where to not be in the way. They know how to keep themselves safe. They know how to get proper positioning in places so that they're getting the ideal coverage of the story. And also, their images go right to a service that gets it to the world. People that are out there shooting right now and hoping their images get up on wire usually don't get them out there anywhere because they're not established with photo editors or media outlets.
Yeah, and you're just basically clogging up the streets. So actually, I missed that one. So Patty, she got a shot of the moon with a plane going across. So that's pretty cool. So there you go. That's
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a shot with a witch on a broom once. It was pretty cool.
It wasn't even Halloween.
Yeah.
Which camera has the most shutter actuations you own? Do you feel pride? I
No.
feel pride in knowing that I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't.
That kind of crap.
You know what I care about when I start seeing the camera trip up and I go, huh, this shutter seems like it's going. I don't know. I should get a look at it or something. But I don't think I've ever gone like. I think people get into the gear more than the shooting, and then they get obsessed with. So we see this at trade shows, right, Dan? We see these guys walking around with huge lenses they don't really use, and they're just like getting into the idea of talking about the gear that they bought and how long it lasts or what it can do, rather than actually going to go use it. Like if you talk to Joe, he doesn't even know about any other cameras and the ones he uses. He's just like, I just got to get this job done, you know.
Exactly.
But the only time I care about shutter actuations, if we're going to talk about that, is if I'm buying a used camera. I just want to know the mileage on it. That's about it.
Yeah, that's the time you might care. So yeah, LEDs are getting better, and I do have LEDs in my home. There was a time like when LEDs first started kind of becoming readily available in houses that weren't super expensive. I bought some, and I had like constant headaches, so I got rid of them. But I have new ones now, and they're pretty good. I agree with that.
The flicker rates.
Ones for photo, yeah, the flicker rates. The ones for photo though, the cheaper ones are still crap.
Oh yeah,
sorry,
they're garbage.
They're crap.
I mean, you're looking at me under LED lights right now, but there's plenty of time. So for case in point, right? They brought me a makeup artist to shoot a line of makeup. I'm not going to go into the brand, but the color was important to them because they wanted to represent what those colors are. The girl took shots with a camera, not a phone, with her own camera. I think it was a Canon, and she shot it with a ring light. And then we took her into the studio and I shot her, and the color was accurate. And they were wondering what the difference was. I'm like, that ring light has no color spectrum. You can't nail that Pantone color. And even my setup wasn't 100%. It can't be. It still has profiling in the sensor and everything, but it's nowhere near how bad a ring light was, you know?
Yeah, because certain types of light are missing colors, or they have spikes. So those two things. And you can't just white balance it away because it's missing. Like if your light looks green, that's because there's a spike of green. If you remove that green, what you end up doing is you change the whole color profile of the light. It doesn't actually fix it. I mean, for a portrait, it might be fine. That's why I really have a lot of respect for light panels, because they never claimed early on that their lights were accurate. They just said they were designed to make skin look good. And it's true, the skin looked good, but they were not accurate. They're more accurate now than they used to be.
You want some of the most amazing light ever is tungsten lights, but look, there's not a lot of people setting up hot lights anymore to do this, especially when they're like a 300-watt light is hot as hell and it's still not that bright technically. So it's like,
yeah, well, it's brighter than a lot of these LEDs though, because there's also this idea of like how like the light waves travel and stuff. That's like way more science that I even really understand. But like I can tell you, for instance, fluorescent is the biggest one that I see. They used to be like, this is equivalent of such and such tungsten, and it really isn't. It is when it's up close, but in a photo light, because tungsten lights are generally the shape of the lights are designed usually to throw the light far. Like they're made for that. Whereas these fluorescent fixtures were just basically this bulb sitting in there, and it didn't throw the light far, so it was not really equivalent. But tungsten is the way to go. What's that?
They try to fool you into thinking that the LEDs are more than they are. Like they're having to compensate for something. And every time they try to show us a new LED in this industry, they burn your retina out with it and go like, it's bright. I'm like, no, it's bright for my eyeball, but I'm using something else to capture it. And then they try to show you how it freezes motion because it's so bright. And it's like, well, two things. One, if it's really that bright, my model is uncomfortable. And two, why is your ISO so high if that light is so bright? Like the ISO is always cranked. Yeah. So I don't buy this. If LEDs were as powerful as strobes, you would melt someone's brain out the back of their skull. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but like, come on.
no, 100%. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I like Seth said, I use LEDs a bunch. I'm using an LED right now. Um, the the tungsten is still better, but yeah, they do get hot, so you have to be wary of them, of course. Let's see. So, and it goes high end LED is good. If you get good LED lights, they are good. You know, so whenever I say that, I'm talking about cheap because I know that's exactly what you're asking me. You know, it's like you're asking about cheap LEDs. Nobody comes and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying LEDs. They're $5,000. Do you think they're?" No. If you're talking about that, yeah, they're good, but they're still not
Five
all the things.
$5,000. I love this. So some kid gave me some grief because I'm using one of my panels here is $200, and actually for an LED panel, that's kind of on the low end. It's not really expensive. And he's like, "Well, I get these ones for $40 from Amazon." And I'm looking at him like, "Do you see how harsh it is? Because the point of source is spread out really shitty, and like you look like, don't you see that it looks like a $40 light?" But the problem is nobody really notices that. For most people, they're just trying to webcam or something. They're not
Yeah.
looking for that. But if you're trying to get somebody to match like these crazy Avedon shots or whatever with LED light, it's kind of like,
Yeah, like you're not going to be able to do that, and that's really what it comes down to. And again, it's one of those things that depends on what you're doing. So I won't bash LEDs all day, but yeah,
also CRI is not the value that really matters.
not in
It's only,
LEDs.
yeah.
Yeah, CRI matters for like fluorescent. LED usually has a different. I need to be further away from my light, but I just can't move myself. So you guys said getting some shadow.
You should put on your warm lights in the back. Why don't you put your warm lights on in the back?
I don't feel like getting up because I'm not wearing any pants.
Boo.
No,
Boo.
apparently, pants mean something else in the UK because I said pants and Gavin was like, "I would never do that." I'm like,
Oh
I
God.
don't know what that means, Gavin. Okay, yeah. So, oh, yeah, somebody talking about redheads burning themselves. Yeah, I gotcha.
We've all
Printing
burned
APS
ourselves.
for images. I
Wait,
mean,
what?
I don't. I'm not. What's the size for APS image print size? Blah blah. I don't know. I mean, I've printed 24 by 36 images on a 3 megapixel camera back in the day. I mean, how big it
Honestly,
depends on your
I
image.
would consult a printing company about what they would recommend and then just stick to that if you're doing your own prints. I mean, that's just kind of people
Yeah,
that print is a whole nother, like just the people that print, not the shooting, but the people that print are like on a whole nother wavelength with that stuff. So, you know.
no, I did. In fact, when I did the one light challenge, I used an LED bulb. I did. I'm not saying never to use it. You have to look at things through different angles. There's the Daniel, that's the commercial photographer, or the you should just be out there shooting, Daniel. It's like, yeah, I mean, I could have used this softbox that's letting me to do that, but you guys probably don't have that. So I used an LED light bulb, which is what you have. Never ever take that as you could, just because I did that shot, I would never choose that. Like that's the last thing I would do. I did it as a challenge to kind of think about light, in a different way. It's like you want to use the proper tools. It makes your life so much better to use the proper tools when you have them.
There's a difference between showing a demo for everybody and then doing a job for your professional career that's your livelihood and legacy. So I show you guys I use a pizza box as a reflector.
Right.
You will not find me doing that in a special effects shoot unless I have nothing else around me to reflect light. But odds are, if I'm doing that shoot that day, I brought a reflector that's proper for me. I'm not fighting myself with garbage. But if I only had a speed light on me, I can make something happen if given if the situation arises that I need to shoot.
Yeah, everybody has 2 ring lights. That makes you an extra influencer.
Yeah, that's twice the influence right there. That's fucking ring lights, man. God.
Use a view camera. Yeah, I mean, the thing about a view camera is that it is just a different way of working. I mean, I know that you're kidding, but it's just every
I
camera
don't know
has
what you're
their.
talking about. This is my new webcam. What are you talking about? This is what I live stream with now. I don't know what you're talking about, Daniel. You're crazy. This is all serious photographers need is some sort of large format camera. That's all I need.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what you're talking about. So if I get a shot if I have a client come into my studio that needs me to shoot something that needs to get out the door in 3 hours, I'm pulling this.
Yeah, I would. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, ENG is still manual focus. That's true. I mean, the you guys are killing the ENG guys are like, Yeah, you can carry both tungsten and LEDs. I mean, I'm not saying, again, there's not an issue with using LED. Ideally, you'd use an HMI. I mean, if you want, but HMIs are,
Expensive as fuck.
expensive and they're more fragile and blah, blah. It may not matter.
Don't HMIs have a limited lifetime? Like they're really short lifetime on them? Is
I
that
mean, they're limited compared to an LED, but then you get a couple
Mm.
100 hours on them anyways. So, oh, okay. Okay. So in the UK, pants is underpants. We call those underpants, underwear. There we go. Briefs. Okay. Do you go into a shoot with the predetermined lighting setup or do you adjust on the fly? Yes.
Yeah, I know. The problem, so every time people ask you a question, it's always, it depends, right? Because there's times people give me, and they're like, I want to shoot this and I need to look like that. Well, in my head, it's like, well, if you want to look like this, I know I need to, so I want it to be dark and contrasty. Well, I know I'm not using large sources. I know that I'm using this. Like, you go into it with an idea of where you're going with it. I don't bring everything in the world to a set and go, let's do this. It's, I don't know.
He's got an HMI Joker in the gear too. It's okay. All right, Eric, you got a good kit. I'm getting a little jealous.
Jokers are dope, man.
It is true. The more lights you have, the more money you make. You can charge more for using more lights. So small lights, lots of them. But yeah, I don't. So do I go into a thing? I mean, it depends. A lot of the shoots I do now, let's say if I'm going in to shoot a video, then yeah, I have a general idea because I'm shooting a video. I mean, I'm teaching this technique, but I like to look at my subject and kind of study them a little bit in the beginning, and I base my light off what I see there. So I don't generally have a plan like set in my head. I have a rough idea. Like I might take a softbox out or an umbrella with that in mind, but I don't, my placement and stuff, I don't usually.
Yeah, Daniel undressed me with his eyes for at least 3 hours before he took a photo of me. So it was very uncomfortable, but I understood. I got it. And I also wanted to be famous, this is what he told me. I needed to take my clothes off to be famous. So.
I mean, I literally say to people, especially when they're new, and we were talking about that earlier, I photograph those people who weren't photographed, that in the beginning of the shoot, I am not going to take any pictures. I'm just going to look at you. And I literally do that. I mean, people might think I'm just saying that to teach, but like, I do not pick up my camera until I'm pretty much ready to go. Like, I don't look through my camera. I look at the person with light and I move it around until I think I get a general lace. Then I take a shot. I think a lot of photographers, the mistake they make is they get a subject there and they immediately look through their camera. It's like, I can see it with my eyes. I mean, light them first and then look through the camera.
So one of the weirdest things I do to kind of keep lighting sharp in my head is, and I know this isn't something for everybody, and you could probably find a version of this, but I go to the Greek statues exhibit at the Met, which has a skylight. And every time I go there, the light's different because clouds, no clouds, time of day, season, whatever. And if you look at those statues, they're decrepit and like the noses are broken off and stuff. And that's kind of where I started looking at lighting for textures and creating stuff for the special effects. And I posted on my Instagram, here's zombie lighting, because it looked like they're zombies because they're like blank eyed and half their face is gone. But I really am serious about that I'm looking at natural light. And then I'm wondering, well, how can I recreate that look of light anytime, anywhere? And that's kind of where you start going, so what creates this? Then you learn what creates that, then you apply it, then you have that card in your Rolodex of tricks.
Right, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. And that's exactly it. You need to be aware of light when you're kind of wandering around and put that into your tricks.
And be aware of light when you're editing. For you guys that dodge the hell out of every shadow, light doesn't work like that. So it makes no sense. And that's why the image starts looking fake and false, and you stop having viewers connect with it because they feel like there's a barrier between the truth and the image.
Exactly. The adding the light in post to me is just the most bizarre thing. Unless it's really a true special effect, then maybe. But even then, I would still try to do it.
Oh, the burning in and sculpting afterwards.
No, how you can, that part is just terrible. I hate that. I literally, the last video that I guess it was about 3 weeks back that I did with Marissa was literally a response to that. Like the fact that people will show this lighting that's super flat and then they show this like super sculpted image. It's like, that's not how they did it. Like you're not doing anybody a service teaching photography and showing this like giant 8-foot umbrella and then showing a super sculpted shot, like without explaining that you did that in post. It's like, anybody's going to try to do that. It's not going to look like that. That's just literally not what that light does.
And knock yourself out. knock yourself out, do that, but don't tell me you're teaching lighting. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. Right. No, that's really my point of view on that. So you really need to like consider that that's a separate part. You know, you can shoot flat and then do lots of post if that's your style or that's how you want to work. But don't say this is with light, because the people, when you're trying to teach, I mean, if you're just telling your clients or whatever, that's fine. Lie to them. I don't care what you're doing. But don't
And
teach that that's.
they also look like digital paintings after they do all that burning in. Like it doesn't feel like a photo to me. Something just seems off. I don't know about you.
Well, I think people have a tendency to go too far, you know, and that's common. I mean, I've done it and I do it sometimes. You just keep going and going, and then all of a sudden it's like you lose the grip of where you were started, and you get wrapped into this moment of like, oh, this looks great, and then later, you know, maybe they never realize it, but it's like, yeah, that doesn't look real anymore.
Like, and to be clear, subtle dodging and burning, I get that, but to completely alter the lighting to a point where it's impossible light, which, by the way, everyone knows what light looks like. We spend our whole lives looking at it. After a while, somebody goes like, I don't know why this doesn't look. So people are getting smarter. Like, how many times have people come to me like, how come my images don't look like this? It's like, because that's not really an image. That's a Photoshop creation, you know? Or how many times they brought you a CGI image and they're like, I want to do this. And I'm like, well, go to that studio because I'm not the guy to do it. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, I think hopefully people are beginning to pick up that's happening, especially the longer they're around. You know, even a lot of models that we start working with early on have like terrible, I shouldn't say terrible, that doesn't sound right, but terrible images that are like over the top, retouched, and like not lit properly and whatever. And we'll point that out and be like, oh, you know, and they'll be like, no, no, no. And then like a year into working with them, all those shots are gone. And then they'll be like, oh, I don't want to work with that guy. Look at his work. It's all retouched, because they realize now they don't need that. Like somebody's being convinced that they need that because they don't understand that you can get beautiful shots without that. So I think
we both dealt with makeup campaigns that decided they don't want to do editing anymore. They want, because people aren't stupid anymore. They want to know what they're buying and not being sold a false representation of it because it was a CGI'd image basically. And I mean, not for nothing, I understand people altering lighting in post while they're learning, but then go and shoot the next time, creating the light you want instead of always shooting to take 2 weeks to fuck with it later on. I mean, what the hell? And we talked about this, right, Dan? I got my makeup contracts back because the people they hired were showing them work that was altered, and then they were wondering why they were getting these flat shots on the job. And next thing I know, I have those jobs back offered to me because I gave them the shots lit, not altered, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's a difference. So somebody said, I actually didn't know who this was, so I just quickly Googled it. Serge Redminilli. Yeah, I'm looking at the images. Yeah, I mean, some people like that stuff. People like Velvet Elvises too. I mean, you know, if that's what you like, you know, I mean, I'm not.
Velvet Elvises.
You know,
Velvet
Elvises? Black Velvet Elvis painted. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
people know what Velvet Elvises are?
So my father has one of his Harley choppers painted on black velvet sitting in my parents' basement. And I've seen that my whole life. My dad, man, real class act, man. Let me tell you.
And you know, your dad's awesome, right? So that's cool if you like that. And I think it's cool for some stuff. I mean, I think we're both primarily portrait photographers. So like I don't hold on, let me see if I can find any of this. It looks like he mostly does landscape, which is.
Let's talk about this. So those landscapes, nice for a postcard and a souvenir, nice for like some background or something. But try to find someone that looks at those images later on and goes like, oh, it's a surge, whatever. You know, like I don't think it's there's a place for things, and sometimes they're just not this highly regarded. Sure, is it a pleasing image? Sure. Is it nice to look at all those vibrant colors? Sure. But after a while.
This is terrible, dude. Hold on, let me show you this.
Am I looking at the same thing you are?
No, I'm gonna send it to you privately, because I'm not gonna call this guy out. You guys can make your own decision on this, but I mean, look at this before and after. I'm literally sending this to you.
Also, before we even say that kind of stuff, people killing it, you don't know what their life is really about. It's really easy to make it seem like you're constantly working, constantly shooting, constantly selling and getting. Sometimes a lot of people shoot a ton of stuff and release it, and it's not for client, and they're just out there creating it. And that doesn't, you know, whatever you want to.
I think in his case, like the before picture in that is 1,000 times better than the after. I might have spent
what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, they basically ruined that image. So yeah, I think there's like, you can't buy.
Wait a second. Nope. The before is retouched beyond belief before it even touched the after. Are you
Well, no,
kidding
I
me,
understand
Dan?
that, but I mean, even just looking at like the contrast and stuff of the before, it's still better than the after.
It's
Like
bad.
the
It's
like,
bad light theory. It's really
yeah,
bad light theory. And you can see it on the lips that it's like completely not what light does.
yeah, it's somebody not understanding light and just going in and tweaking the contrast out and stuff. I just,
Ugh.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Ugh.
I don't know this person. I'm not trying to bash him. He's probably got 10 gazillion followers, but yeah, that's not commercial photography. There's no commercial client that's going to hire you to do that because they could buy that preset themselves. If your whole style becomes a preset that you can just put on any image, then you are basically the equivalent of the $10 preset. You know? Oh, actually, let me see how much they cost. I'm curious how much they are now.
Well, not even after. So people have like these moments where people absorb their images, and after a while, they just kind of get tired of it, and they kind of just try to replicate it, and then it becomes even more tiring. And after a while, especially landscape stuff, how many times have you seen a picture of the Eiffel freaking Tower? I mean, it's just what it is. And if you want to take it for yourself, enjoy it. But don't think that there's some major career out there of creating these images. You know, and I think that's kind of a reality people need to face as well.
Also, I'd be curious to see what these actually do because I'm looking at them and I feel like each one of these presets, I'm on the website now, is basic. Well, first of all, it's $135 marked down to $27. Yeah, so it's $27. And there's like a million sets of them, and all they're doing is tweaking the contrast. They're literally just they're using the shadow fill and adding more contrast to the blacks and pumping the saturation. It's literally 4 seconds.
See,
So don't spend money on that.
the
Sorry.
landscape photographers that I really get into are the ones that wait for the time of day they're looking for, the time of season they're trying to find. You know, they're waiting for those leaves to fall and capture them like going across their lens. And now I'm looking at these guys on Instagram selling presets that actually put fake clouds in, that they put fake like front haze in. Like, why am I looking at something that's not really showing me what's there? I don't know. This is just me. Anybody can like whatever images they want, but it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just again, everybody has their own personality. Like I said, some people like Velvet Elvises. If you like that, then that's
Knock
fine.
yourself out. Knock yourself out. No, our issue is more with people that try to sell you the idea that they're going to educate you on how to shoot something, and they're basically just digital editors.
Yeah, and then also say to now I feel bad that I was criticizing this guy who I don't know. He's probably a very nice person. I don't think anybody's looking at those presets going, "Oh yeah, that was done in camera." I mean, it's very obviously like an illustrative
It's
take
juiced.
on it,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I mean, you can juice your images all you want. HDR, somebody asked about. It used correctly, I think HDR is fine, but a lot of people just use it like garbage. That's my thought
And
on that.
they over pump it, and I think for commercial purposes, like they're trying to show a building or something like that, like I kind of get it. But if you're going to show me a landscape and the sky is amazing and underneath the bridge where there's a huge shadow somehow opened up, you're kind of I feel insulted that you want me to believe this image. You know what I mean? Like that's not how I just I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
no, I agree. I think that, right. So for instance, I used to, this was before you came and joined the studio. There was a guy when I very first joined, Bill Miller. Hey, Bill, if you're out there, he's like semi-retired now, but he was an architectural photographer. And he basically, in the last like several years of him doing it, full time, he had switched over. It was actually hilarious because he showed me like all the lighting shit that he had. He ended up selling all of it, but like that he used to go into places, spend all day lighting up like lobbies, getting it at 2 o'clock in the morning because there couldn't be anybody in there and this and that, hiring models if they needed somebody to walk through. And they used to go and set up a huge crews. He's like, yeah, this is my kit now. And he had basically a set of tilt shift lenses, a really nice small tripod, all fit in a backpack, his computer, the Capture One, and he would literally go on a bicycle. He had one of those folding bikes to his clients and like sit there and do HDR and then spend, the next day in Photoshop making it look the way that he would have if he had lit it and actually made it cheaper for the client and he could be more efficient. The thing is he had 30, 40 years of like shooting this stuff and lighting it. So his HDR looked real because he knew what things should look like. And I think that was the difference.
Yeah, we did photo critiques at Adorama, and people would send us these images, and we just look at them. We spent more time wondering what they did to it rather than the image, and that's what made the image less successful because we cared about well, why does this look like this? And that seems off. Something's not right here. And that is taking us, the viewer, away from the subject. So then why shoot the photo?
Yeah, I agree. So, Peter, do you guys ever find time to make time to go out to shoot for yourself, non-work stuff, just for you? Um, you know,
Nope.
honestly, everything I do is for me. Like my work is for me. So, yes. I mean, it is nice sometimes to just shoot. Actually, we were talking about that with Mark during the Adorama host thing. To just get, because sometimes I'll like contact a model. I'll be like, hey, let's do a shoot, and they'll be like, oh, we're doing a video. It's like, well, no, we're just going to shoot. So I do that sometimes, but it's all work for me. I mean, I think of it, it's all work and it's all play. So yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done a personal project in years, honestly. And by the time I'm done with like everything I'm doing for everybody else and stuff, I just can't even, I don't know. It's
Oh,
tough.
well, we got to get you to get you a little personal project there. Well, I guess I don't
Yeah.
really do projects. I just do shoots. You know, so every once in a while I'll say I'm going to do a project and I'll spend like 2 sessions doing it, and then I'll be like, yeah, I'm done with this. Just not
Yeah.
what I do. Like, I have an idea for a project. It's
Well,
like
right
one shoot.
now, I'm like backlogged 4 months of special effects shots I haven't even put out there. I feel like I need to get onto that. Like, and also it's really tough when you're known for something and then you try something else. And sometimes your audience you built just isn't there for what else you're trying. I mean, look at Cindy Sherman. Everybody loved her cinema still stuff. And then her new stuff with like the melted candy, no one cared about. You know, like, it's just kind of like,
No, it's true. Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody does. I mean, I think that if you are doing photography only for money, you're probably doing it the wrong way. I mean, in my opinion. So hopefully anything you do is kind of for yourself. Like even if you're forced to shoot something, you know, we're forced. Oh my God, it's so terrible. You know, let's say they hand you a new camera and they're like, go out there and shoot something. You're still creating, so it's still good. It's something can be frustrating, but it's still a creative process.
well, yeah, I guess we're creative for a living. So like I kind of get that all out of my system.
So you're suggesting that when you have a composite of say 2 photos, it is always visible that it's not real? Um, Not necessarily. It's not always visible. If done right, what you saying? If it's
I,
visible, I'm not sure what you're saying. So if you can tell that it's 2 photos and it's not real, well, yeah, I mean, yes. I mean,
well,
most people interpret a photo as capturing a moment in time. I think most people would agree that's what a photo is. So if you take 2 photos and it's clear they were shot at 2 different times and you stuck them together, then yeah, it won't look real. Does that mean it's bad? Not necessarily, but it won't be
no.
real.
There's 2 situations kind of for that most times. One, super fine art, you know, like Anya Anti does. She composites like a girl pulling the moon out of the sky or whatever. Or
Yeah.
2, Joel Grimes, who will shoot like a soccer player in his studio and then shoot a stadium and composite that for a commercial advertisement that people already don't take as gospel, right? That it's just like an edited, like mess of stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's our new world. That's actually kind of sad. Like I remember literally traveling to places to do exactly that kind of thing. Like they're like, well, we need a shot of this person in such and such stadium, and you would literally just go there and shoot them there. Now they won't do that because it's too expensive, which just
That's
sucks. Because
basically it.
that's the part of the industry that sucks that they took that away.
Yeah, but there's also a flip side to this. Years ago, when you did the work that cost more, those ad campaigns ran for like a year. Now you're doing it and they're over in like a week or 2 and they're on to the next thing because they're smaller, faster productions that get put out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not talking about money wise. I mean, now there's more jobs, even if they are slightly less. It was just kind of cool to fly places. Like I remember flying literally 2 places just to shoot there. When now a lot of times they would just composite that. It's not just not the same.
Wait, offer
I
me
mean, they
500
still do
bucks for
fly.
what?
What's that?
Someone's offering me 500 bucks for what? Am I missing something? This chat is all over the place. I can't keep.
Uh, Purchase presets are only vague ballpark. Yeah, I mean, you know, I agree. It's rewarding to make your own and have Seth make them for you because he made mine.
It's not a preset. It's a fucking grade. God damn it.
Yes. Well, it's funny too because it is true that Seth made the black and white grade that I used the most, but it's also true that he made it on one of my pictures on my photo shoot. So it's not like he just went home and did it on his picture and put it up. That's a whole different thing.
Well, no, it's true. Technically, at that moment, I was Dan's Digitech, pretty much. And I looked at what he was shooting, the contrast that he was shooting, the skin tones he was shooting, and I made the darks the way I like darks, the way I made the lights, and I made the gradational tone that it gave me the full spectrum. So that's why people like it. You have informations in your shadows, you have informations in your highlights, but you also have these crunch down contrast points, because me and Dan shoot similar in that regard, that we both shoot a contrast in black and white.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the difference. And that's what people have to understand. Random preset you buy from influencer who you don't know how they shot, how they generally shoot, versus working with somebody and creating your own, you know, whether it be you're doing it or somebody that's, you know, working, doing your digital teching for that shoot. Yeah, I do. I shoot what I like. And I've been very happy. I can't, I mean, I complain a lot, as Seth will attest, but I really can't complain. I mean, I do what I want, which I think is just fantastic.
We all complain. We all complain because everything we do is fucking hard. But this is what we do. This is what we know. And we wouldn't do it if we didn't want to do it. But if it was easy, I wouldn't want to do this. And the people that say it's easy are lying. Like, you can shoot. You can do whatever you're going to do. But to get it to be consistent, to keep doing it going forward, to being able to do it under time restraints with gear you've never used before, for clients you never met, you know, it's hard. It's not easy. But you have to want this. If you don't want this, I'll see you after your year of being a superstar is over. I mean, it's time to just get yourself geared into the idea that you have to put in the work if you want the glory.
I agree. So Vanessa said, what's the difference between a preset and a grade? And I think I just explained my point of view on that. But do you have anything to add there? So I'll go over it again. A preset to me is something that you buy that's just randomly shot from somebody. A grade is something that's made for your style of shooting.
Yeah, I think you have to realize that when you buy a preset, they're basically selling you like, look, your images will look like this. And unless you're shot on the exact same conditions, it won't. In fact, if I gave you that what was it? The cadence. If I gave you the cadence black and white, it wouldn't look like that for you, because you're not shooting the same style of lighting that we were putting together there. And I would know that if I loaded it as a graded type of film that was that contrasty. That's just what it is. I think people don't realize that you don't try to shoot and then figure it out later. Color grades are shooting for what you're shooting now. Presets are for people that have a bunch of stuff and they're hoping that something fits. Oh, this one doesn't work. I'll try this bleached out one. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try this vivid one. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try this flat one. No, that's not the way to do this. And you're not learning shit.
Yeah, and what I think is super interesting and telling about this is I think, yeah, it might not be there anymore because the Twitch drops things, but when I did the black and white grading or whatever on the shot I did with Miranda at their house, at first I dropped the cadence on there because I have it, and it's the one that I use the most because it's how I light. And then I was like, well, I want to show you guys how I do it. So I took it off and then I graded it myself. And literally it looked I was almost exactly the same thing. I did the same thing without putting the preset on because that's just what looks good for the way that I shoot. So like, it just is a good preset for how I normally light stuff. So that's good for me. So it's my preset. But if you put it on your image, it's not going to look the same. I mean, it just won't.
They tell me to release. I should release the grade. You want the grade? I want 5 G's. You give me $5 grand, I'm gonna give you that cadence black and white. All right. There's my sellout. There's my sellout. How about you guys learn how to color grade?
Yeah, I mean, it's just watch how he did it. Like, he literally does it in the video. He shows you how he's doing it. I mean, that's it.
Also, Emily Teague will be coming on Adorama's platforms to show you guys how to do Capture One color grading. So,
oh, cool. There you go.
And she's really good at it.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it, to be honest with you. I think I'm okay. It's not a thing that I really do. Composites like CGI for movies, bad. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. A good composite, either done in a fantastical way that you could tell it's composited, or done because it needs to be done because something happened and you need to, like, you know, change something or whatever, can be great, you know, if it's done well. What you don't want to do is use it as a crutch. You don't want to shoot a bad photo and then be like, okay, I need to fix this now, so this is what I'm going to do. Like, a good example of how I use it commercially is that if I'm shooting something, like, let's say you're shooting a bunch of bottles, like you're doing a still life, and you need every label to be sharp, you might actually, you know, lock everything down and then focus on the first label, shoot, focus on the second label, shoot, focus on the third, and you literally do that, and then you composite the labels together so that all the labels are sharp. That's just something that you might do commercially. And that's why you would do it. There's a reason for it, you know, and that's it. But I'm planning it ahead. I'm not just doing it later because I'm like, oh no, the label is soft, so now I need to do something else. Like, you plan.
Well, I think we both did this at one point. We shot for watch companies, and you could not get those watches sharp from the back of the face to the glass without stacking. And that's when you learn really quickly when a shitty lens, and when you focus it, it changes or breathes,
Yeah.
and you start having issues with that, because then the perspective of the what do you call it, subject, changes because you're doing focus stacking. So then you have to actually learn your lenses a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's also true, right? If the lens breathes, it actually changes the framing slightly. Supermoon photos. Yeah, I guess that went by. Also, I have to say, because some people have asked me why I'm not taking pictures and posting them like when I'm walking. I mean, I post on Instagram a quick story when I'm walking around because I've been doing some hiking, because I just want to enjoy hiking. Like, I feel like it's healthy to separate things. You know, it's like sometimes I just don't, and I learned that actually because after going to a Weird Al Yankovic concert, I actually went to this concert and I snuck in a long line, like, I'm going to photograph the concert. And I spent the whole concert shooting, you know, pulling the camera out, sneaking shots, and I got some cool shots, I thought. But then in the end, I was like, yeah, I missed like half the concert because I was thinking about shooting. And I'm like, I paid to come to enjoy the concert. I wasn't here to photograph it. These photos are going to go in some drawer somewhere. I'm not going to do anything with them. So like, I literally realized that sometimes you just have to enjoy life and not worry
Yeah.
about getting shots, you know?
When I shot BMX, we had like tiny windows of a few minutes before cops showed up at riding spots. So the best guys would ride and we'd shoot it. And by the time that was done, we had to leave. So there was so many times I shot for BMX that I didn't get a chance to ride myself. And like just that slipped away from my hands, that when I did go riding, no backpack, nothing. Like it was just for me. And I had to make sure I had those days so I could stay connected and still love BMX. And also, I remember getting nervous if I break my hands or my fingers. Like, how would I shoot the next day if I got hurt? So then that was in my head, you know. So sometimes you got to weigh what's important to you.
Yeah, I agree. So what about black and white plugins? So any presets or plugins I think are fine if you want to use them as a starting point. And what I have said before, and I'll say it again, is that if you get let's say that you like somebody's work. Let's say you like this one that we looked at earlier, and you're like, I like that. Instead of buying every plugin they make and just dropping it on your photos randomly, look at one, like just open it up and see what they did. Like explore that plugin, explore that preset to see how they did the thing. Or better yet, look for a video on YouTube that shows you how to do that style of thing and learn how to do it in Photoshop or Lightroom or Capture One or whatever you're using. That's much more useful than just doing like what Seth was saying. Let me try that one. No, it doesn't look good. Let me try that one. No, it doesn't look good. Let me try that one. Because there's no real point in that, you know, to
You know
me.
what it is? You know what the point to that was? You paid some influencer pro YouTuber to keep going. That's what you did. They're usually $60, but today they're 30. Every day they're 30. Use your head. Use your
I just don't, you know, and, you know, and not to say I don't do things like I will grab the black and white presets or whatever they're in Capture One, and I'll drop them on there or one of them just to see what it'll look like. Sometimes I do that, but I do it while I'm shooting, not after the fact. Like I'll do it. I'll be like, oh, I wonder if I wanted to desaturate this, and let me just quickly look to see what this desaturated preset does, and I'll be like, okay, I kind of like that. Then I'll remove it, and then I'll go in there and tweak it so it looks the way I want. So I'll use it as a quick check. That's
And
basically
it
how.
also sets the baseline for the mood of the images. Like if you desaturate it, it gives it a somber feel. If you make it punchy, it gives it more dynamic. Like there's reasons you kind of do the grade, and you'll watch yourself shooting for it, you know?
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, I don't know. What do I know?
No,
What
I
do I
agree.
know? I'm just a
I think
punk from
that's the way to
Brooklyn.
shoot.
Don't listen to me.
No, I mean, I think that's literally the way to shoot. You want to shoot to your plugin or to your grade or to your whatever versus the other way around. I think most of the time when we're criticizing things, it's the idea of people not thinking through their shot and then trying to make it better or in post when it could have been a great shot when you made it. I think that's
Yeah.
really what my point of view is on that.
But
I'm not
also,
opposed to using Photoshop, whatever. The idea is that like a good example would be like Gavin. Gavin has lots of videos where he clearly is going to do Photoshop to it, and he shoots it in a way that Photoshop accentuates what he does. He doesn't go into it and go, "Oh shit, I made a terrible photo. I'm going to fix it." You know, like the one he did with the big top, where like he knew he didn't have enough space. He wanted it to look like she was in front of a giant tent, so he basically shot it with half the tent, so that he knew he could double it up on the other side. Like that's something that's a composite, that he planned for and did really well.
Yeah, he doesn't try to fix or try to save. He's shot knowing that he could pull it together later.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know,
Exactly.
man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean that just us. Yeah, the reality is that I mean sometimes it is true that whole like crossed off price thing is almost always fake. So I think that's always funny. I mean,
I think, plus the video is up forever, so it's always going to be that price. Like, what are you talking about?
right.
Like,
Yeah, it's yeah, and whatever. It might be worth it to like that stuff. Go for it. I'm not buy it, but to me, like people are the one place too where you really have to watch your grades. Like landscape, I guess, is kind of generic, but maybe I say that as not really being a landscape photographer, so I'm kind of looking down on. But like to me, like every person is so different. Like I wouldn't want to just jump a random preset on somebody.
but how many times have you seen, like, let's say there's a picture of like an alternative model and they overly saturate the tattoos on purpose? And then I'm thinking to myself, like, that's not what a tattoo looks like on skin. And I know this because I see them every goddamn day. And so me being of that genre of human being goes, I don't really care about this image anymore. And I don't watch what you're putting out next. So like sometimes you have to give credit, and you have to validate the viewer. You have to give them the courtesy that they're intelligent and that they're not going to buy anything you throw into an image because you decide to make it look better. Just like eyeballs don't illuminate. Eyes don't illuminate. Okay. So it kills me when I see shots on Instagram. It's like lighting and then the shadows on the other side, but somehow the eye is the same exposure as the other eye. What do you think? Inverse square doesn't exist on the freaking eyeball? What the hell is wrong with you? So
They're using that little projector just to light the eye up.
if that's your style, knock yourself out. But don't tell me you're lighting this shit. Don't tell me.
Yeah, and I think that's really where the issues become. I think that most of the time when I can only speak for myself, but I think you're similar, is that it's mostly when people are doing it, and what I'll say falsely. Like they're literally, like I said earlier, they are like, I'm going to teach you how to light something, and then they literally don't light it to look the final way because they do a bunch of Photoshop, and then don't show you how to do the Photoshop. So it's like, well, I can't do that with what you just taught me. So what was the point? So I think that's where I have.
Not to mention, watch how long a photographer works with clients when they can show basically the image that they came to you for right there on the spot while you're tethered. People have longevity in careers when they can do it right there and show them, and not go, hey, don't go by this. In 2 weeks, you'll see what it's going to be. You'll watch the legacies happen over time from that.
No, agreed. But people do love to see the final image. I mean, it really does make a difference when you have clients. It's huge.
Wait, I don't understand what.
They edit dogs' eyes too. That's so funny that ties in. No matter what, they're always those pet photographers. That's so crazy. And you know what's interesting to me about that is that, yeah, that's really weird. Because I feel like animals' eyes generally do look dark. Like they have like a different feel to them than a person's
Not cat eyes.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what I'm saying? Like I've done some stuff shooting horses. So I looked at, I hired some horses. So I was looking at shots of horses to see like how they do it. And most of the time the eyes are almost like black because that's just what a horse's eyes look like. Yeah. So to try to like make it look like a human's eye is just weird,
To me, I think like shooting animals that are like grandeur, like horses, it's like an anatomical landscape. You want to see the flow of the body line. You want to see the fur texture. You want to see the muscle fibers so that you have like this like strength in the animal. That's the way what I look at animal photography about is, I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy.
No, and you're right. And each type of animal has like a personality, right? So like, like horses are that, right? They're very kind of grand. I mean, to the layperson, maybe people who deal with horses will say, "Oh no, horses aren't like that at all." But you think of a horse as like this, like strong, flowing, majestic, and like a dog is more like fun and goofy and friendly, and so you want to shoot them that way. Generally speaking, I think, maybe not all dogs are like that, but all cats are jerks.
All cats are jerks.
As a cat person, I can say all cats are jerks. Yeah.
Hey, Gary.
Gary, we were waiting this whole time for you to join so that we could stop.
Dude, it's past 1 o'clock already.
Yeah,
Well, good, because I punched in. Daniel's gonna pay me now because I punched in at 10:30 for you.
Yeah, I
So,
got. I'm paying Seth, 50 cents an hour.
yeah. That's the going rate of photographers right now. I don't know if you guys know that. That's kind of what it is.
Take a pic of a dog during night with a flash. Those red eyes look. Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
Do you remember when red eye was a thing? Do you remember when there was red eye reduction in cameras, or those green pencils that they used to sell that you would mark on prints? Do you remember those days?
Oh, the red eye reduction is the best. It's like
everybody with epilepsy is like hitting the floor at the wedding. They're like, oh, and then it's like,
no,
okay, no red eye.
They didn't have red eye because they were blinking. Oh, that was the worst.
And then there was a weird microscopic window of time in the photo industry where they said, hey, you won't get red eye in your photos the farther the flash is away from the camera. So you would have these point and shoot cameras that are this big, then you hit click and the flash would like pop up to here like a crane. And I was like, holy shit, what the hell's that? And they would always break off the camera.
It was like, it's like a transformer. Like, I mean, it is true though. I mean, because red eye is basically just the flash being close to the lens and just bouncing back light.
That what you're looking at in the red is actually the blood reflecting off the retina in the back of the eyeball, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so you got to have the source really close, which is actually why ring flashes can do that too, because they're so close to the lens. You'll get red eyes.
I hate the look of ring lights in eyeballs. It's always like.
He's running late, Gary. We've been here for 2 hours.
3. I've really been 3. It's been 3 hours.
Yeah, we've been live for a while, and we didn't get kicked off. I kicked off yesterday.
See, I'm not a hot chick, so they just go, let them do what they're gonna do.
Yeah, they're like, whatever, I don't care about the class. That was so fun. Yeah, so I got kicked off. If anybody missed yesterday, I got kicked off. Violating guidelines, apparently.
Yep.
Too funny.
Well, I feel like we bitched for like 3 hours. We just bitched.
Yeah, me too. I think we probably fade out here. If there's no other questions, we'll give it a second to see if any questions cycle in.
I kind of want to find those red eye reduction pencils now. Like that's a good little piece of photo history right there.
That is hilarious. I totally forgot about those. Yeah. Yeah, you literally draw on your print.
Everybody had dents on their images around everybody's eyes, like.
Yeah, well, because cameras are trying to get smaller and smaller, and that just put the flash closer and closer to the lens, which then caused red eye. So it became.
Well, you know when it really was bad? When the APS-C film came out.
Oh yeah.
The ELF, the Canon ELF, and all those.
Yeah, those were super cool though. What a great idea that was. I mean, the fact that it was smaller, maybe not, but like the fact that the film like rolled out and then back into itself for storage was super cool.
Yeah, it was like diamond shaped or oval shaped. And it was drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you process, they gave you like a little contact sheet because that was always the problem with going to like a 1 hour lab or whatever. Like you get your negatives, you lose them, because it's like they throw them in the envelope. You're like, oh no.
I worked at a 1 hour photo lab. I know exactly what that was like.
Yeah, but that stuff would roll out, process, then roll back in, and you'd have the contact sheets numbered, so you could go back if you wanted to print and be like, I want number 5, and they would just stick it in there, and it would print number 5. It was great.
And they would allow for a panoramic setting on all the rolls of film. So you could choose what you wanted to do. And it was such a small window of time. If you look at 35 millimeter, then digital was coming in. So at one time you had a digital Canon ELF and an APS-C film ELF at the same time on the market. You know how crazy that is?
No, that's true. It's really funny. But yeah, that's probably why it didn't do that good, because exactly what you said, like digital was just breaking. Like, I mean, it was a few years, but also I think only Canon really did that. I don't remember other cameras really having APS-C, that style. So maybe they
Kodak made the cameras that did that too.
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out like who, like I thought, like sometimes they do that. Like kind of, it's like, oh well, this is our thing, so nobody else can do it. It's like, yeah, well then nobody will do it, and you're gonna fail. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Gary, I've been doing online image reviews on my Twitch. Have you joined my Twitch channel, bro? You might want to join it.
Yeah. Next photo challenge. I have to figure something out. That one literally came randomly because it was sitting here. I'm waiting for Seth to do a better picture of me, so that way I could better picture than me.
Wait, what?
In my one light bulb challenge.
Yeah,
he hasn't watched it yet. I know Seth doesn't watch my videos. It's fine.
I watch your videos sometimes.
Have I tried the cheese scones yet? No, but what I did realize by that recipe that you sent me is they're basically just cheese biscuits, which is yeah. I mean, I feel like a scone is something different than a biscuit to me. I mean, like a sweeter biscuit, I guess.
All right, Larry David. Larry David's.
Well, no, people make them. I think Popeye's chicken has these like cheese biscuits, and that's basically what they seem to be. I didn't actually try to make them yet. That's
Oh my God, man. I'm groggy as hell right now.
so I have not tried that. Kodak disc cameras. Oh my God, the disc cameras.
Oh, I have a few of the disc cameras. Those were a cool design. They were this big. They flipped open, and the
Yeah.
disc was really cool. The problem was it was 8mm film, and you barely got anything out of those things. It was crazy.
Just size wise, that's like amazing. I mean, it was so tiny.
Yeah, you only had it was almost like one of those toys that you clicked like
Yeah,
this and the
a
disc went
Viewmaster.
around.
Yep.
Yeah, the Viewmaster. The problem I think was it was expensive to get everything processed because there was only that one disc film had its one process.
Yeah. Well, it makes
I
sense,
miss
really. It was, it was designed for like high school girls to have in their purses, but like it was too expensive for them to develop the film, so I don't think it lasted.
110 film was the coolest shit. The little telephone cartridge was cool as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good to talk about. Yeah. So join the Twitch because that's actually where you get that stuff. One light bulb, one chicken, and some voodoo. No. I don't have any more chicken. I ate all my chicken.
If you're looking for my Twitch, it's Last X Witness, like everything else on social, by the way.
No, I agree that the scone is different than the biscuit, but I think that recipe that was sent looked like biscuits, at least in the picture. I didn't really fully investigate it, so I will look at it and decide. I do have a lot of cheese. I bought a lot of cheese.
All right, let's not talk about food because I can't cook and I have just like I'm eating like a freaking 12-year-old here right now. So let's stop talking about food. All right. I'm like
I have so many cookies because I made. You should get some Toll House cookies recipe.
I I have never ever turned on this oven as long as I've lived in this apartment. So I don't want to know what happens when I do that.
And you know what's
So
funny about that? When I lived in Queens, we lived in it was the 3-floor apartment, and we were in the center, and it was always hot in the winter because the people above me always had their heat cranking, and below me, so like I never turned the heat on. And then like the third year we were there, it was super cold. So I think one of them went on vacation, so I turned the heat on. It was like the dead of winter, and the whole apartment filled with smoke.
yeah,
And we were like, crap, open the windows because we had never like cleaned it out because it was like a brand new heat system that hadn't been turned
bro.
on.
If I turn on an oven, a raccoon's gonna fly out of there. Like I don't want to. I'm not dealing with this.
You should get an easy bake oven. I'm gonna find an easy bake oven for you online and say,
Do you know what an easy bake oven is? It's just a tungsten light bulb that gets so hot it bakes batter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I know how to bake because when I was a kid, we didn't buy like store-bought stuff. We had to make our own.
Yeah, I gotta find a girl that. Yeah, whatever. I'll just.
I'll teach you. I'll be your girl. I'll teach you.
Yeah, but we're not gonna get into that.
Yeah, so I'll make some C126. Yeah, that was the bigger stuff, right? And then cubes. Yep. Man, there
So
was so many
flash cubes were interesting. I remember seeing those in the garbage like everywhere. They were like on the beach. I'm like, what the hell is this? You
Yeah, they
know?
definitely were not environmentally safe.
Nope.
That's for sure. Although, if you remember, they came out with Polaroid came out with near the end of that being a regular thing. It was like a flash, but it looked like a flash cube. Like it literally sat where the flash cube sat, but it had a little sync cord and it was reusable. It was actually like a regular flash. It took like a little tiny battery. Yeah.
Did you ever get around to modify your Cambo to connect to your D850? Funny you should say that. I have the lens board and the tubes that I was going to do it with, and me and Dan never ever got around to doing this. We were going to do it with my my 13-inch lens.
Yeah, well, you should do it with your field camera.
Well, no, I have. Oh, is my Cambo at the studio? Oh no, it's right there. Okay. No, I could set up the Cambo with the long with the
I thought
Kodak
the
lens.
Yeah, I thought it was at the studio.
Yeah, we're totally gonna have to do that one of these days.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. All right, so there we go. So that's going to be a video once all this stops and we can actually see people.
You know what I would love to do it with? I want to get the GFX 100 mounted to my Cambo.
Ooh, that would be nice. Mm-hmm. What is going to be interesting about it is that the sensor, even on that is so small compared to 4x5. So the lens is going to be crazy long.
Yeah. We think we found out it was going to be like a 1200 millimeter or something like that.
Yeah,
We
it's
figured it out.
nuts. Yeah, you got to do the math. So basically, that's like, yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
It's going to be
'Cause otherwise-
awesome.
Yeah, otherwise it's gonna be, you're gonna be standing super far away. Okay, cool. So that was fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out on Saturday. Thanks, Seth. I will have more people on. And Seth's been doing stuff on his Twitch channel. If you don't know, I mean, I'm assuming you do. That
Yeah, we just had Joe McNally and Dan on, so you guys can check that video out. So go to twitch.tv/lastxwitness and just sign up if you don't have an account. It's free, and we hang out all the time. Plus, we have a Discord channel running, which means a 24/7 forum that you guys can stay connected, ask questions, share images, talk about gear. Robbie Keane, Patty, all you guys are in that. So let's try to get you guys to join our little community. Dan's always in there, so.
Yeah, well, I've been in my room.
I deleted Gavin's room. I deleted it because you guys aren't going to use them. I'm not going to look like an asshole that doesn't bring the host into the rooms that I gave him, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Discord is like a whole other thing. I'll get used to it eventually. All right, so I think we can, I stopped streaming here is the way to do it. You do it here first. Okay, so yeah, follow Seth if you haven't already. And I will have another video, guys, for you tomorrow. And we'll see you then. And now I also can end stream.